Okay, welcome everyone to the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners work session on Tuesday, December 9th. And we are kicking off our meetings this afternoon in a very bittersweet way. And I'm so happy to see so many of you here, but we want to honor our outgoing County Manager, John Peacock. And we have a few things to read for you on your behalf, and I'll just say, how do you roast the world's nicest guy, right? And it doesn't really matter, you're still gonna cry. So John, please come on up and stand with us here. I'm gonna read a proclamation. We'll have another little funny bit, and then if anyone wants to come up and say a few words, you'll be welcome to as well. All right.
Can I just hold tight and not let you?
All right, this is a proclamation of the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners honoring John Peacock for his 15 years of service. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners wishes to express its gratitude and celebrate John's meaningful contributions to the organization and community. Whereas John Peacock has faithfully served Pickens County for 15 years, providing steady leadership, thoughtful guidance, and an unwavering commitment to public service. And whereas during his tenure as county manager, John helped guide major community investments, including the development of the new Pickens County Administration Building and the launch of the community-driven visioning and redevelopment process for the Aspen-Pickens County Airport, among many other capital projects. And whereas John's leadership was instrumental in navigating the COVID-19 pandemic, fostering strength, unity, and clear communication during one of the most challenging periods in modern county history. And whereas John has been a champion for transparency, collaboration, and good governance, strengthening relationships across departments, partner agencies, and the broader community. And whereas he is widely respected for his calm presence, professionalism, and ability to bring people together in service of shared goals. And whereas John has consistently invested in and supported county staff, believing in their talents, empowering their growth, and ensuring teams had what they needed to succeed, and in honor of his distinguished service and lasting impact. Now therefore be it proclaimed, the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners extends its warmest wishes to John in all of his future endeavors and expresses its deep appreciation for his leadership and commitment to the people of Pickens County. Bravo. And now we're going to invite Kara to come up as part of our passing of the baton to our interim county manager, Kara Silvernagle, to read some funny words and references to your history here with us. And speak loud. I know you don't always, but
thank you. So we have, as an outgoing, it's only appropriate, John, that you have a limerick that has been built upon from many staff over the years. So here is the John Peacock limerick. There once was a professor named Peacock who answered Pickens County's recruit. From Grand Junction to Aspen was a big shock, but what's worse, he arrived in a suit. We don't do that, and if you want our endorsement, lose the tie and put on this fleece. The suits we see here say enforcement, and you won't want to look so much like the police. Before long, Peacock fit in with the rest of us, that is until Halloween, when he dressed like a bottle of ketchup and with the BoCC made quite a scene. Pretty soon he was skinning up Tie-Hack with employees who wanted to talk. There was no way that he could get sidetracked on these cold winter morning tough talks. It's not that he couldn't be serious, as he led us through thick and thin. His constitutional teachings made us delirious, chasing his talks on the Federalist Papers with Jen. He has used this consensus ability to win the hearts and minds of his flock, ushering the approval of a $24 million facility that is the pride of the whole city block. Oh, it keeps going. Yeah, there's a lot in here.
Yeah, 15 years is a long
Yeah.
time.
In retrospect, that was no biggie. The budget was actually small and paltry. When compared to today's today's homes in Aspen, that costs more than a shopping mall. Now the airport hasn't been easy. It's too skinny and the terminal is tight. Hard decisions made some of us queasy, but Peacock has never lost sight. And just when he thought of a global pandemic appeared, it was all hands on deck and got desperate to keep going and soften the fear. Then Peacock resorted to biking to reduce stress and ride the big gears. Owl Creek Road was steep in his liking until he connected with that wandering deer. There were other mishaps we won't mention while Peacock ventured into the zone. What certainly got our attention was that he was a little accident prone. It's not just me, Peacock said with defiance, who needs an occasional repair, so he helped to create an alliance for affordable quality health care. While Peacock's feathers have taken a beating, there's one thing he owes to this mob. He now only wears fleece vests to meetings, and he can thank us for winning his new job. That is having at our best. Many others.
I'll invite any board members if you have some words you'd like to say for John. And I know many of you want to share your thoughts privately or have already said your goodbyes with John. If anyone wants to come up and say anything for the community to hear, you're welcome to as well.
Well, I can't sing John's praises enough, and I try to. I try to tell him all the time how amazing he is and how much I love him. And he always says, well, you know, I just work for you. Well, you guys know that's not true. So, yeah, I'll miss you.
I'm saving my words for Stubbies because I think it'll likely result in an overflowing swear jar. But it's been an incredible year, and John admittedly would meet with me for drinks the year preceding being seated and enjoying this wonderful room, the talented staff, and everyone that we've had the joy of working with. So I'll cry before you, man.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I get to do it on TV too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I won't get long-winded, but John, I remember when I decided to run when I was the election manager in the clerk's office, and you and I met over the budget binder for at lunch at the hospital. And you said, do you really want to do this? And I said, well, this is a good way to dissuade me not to, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yet here we are, and we've accomplished so much together, and I'm so proud of the work that we've done, and have really left some legacies that I'm proud of, and I'm so proud to have worked with you on. And Winter Park is so lucky to have you, and your brilliant thinking and your creative problem solving. You really get to the root of a problem, not just what looks obvious on paper. And I've really learned a lot from you about how to think about community, about how to think about leadership, about how to think about how you connect with people in the most empathetic and human ways. And you've made me a better person, and I will carry that into the rest of my life. So I'm sorry to lose you, and I'm so happy for your next chapter. And congratulations, I know Kate's online, and I want to celebrate your new life and your new family as well. So thank you. Yeah. And I'll invite, we'll do just quick comments if anyone wishes, and if not, that's okay too. You'll have your chance to give more raw stories at Stubbies.
But you won't be on TV. This is your opportunity.
It's true. All right. Kara, you want to go? Okay.
One of many. I don't even know what to say. John, 12 years. To be able to step in this interim manager, it's shoes that are so big to fill, but also they're golden shoes, and what you've done for this community for the people in this room that you have mentored. It is not just me, it's people across this entire organization, in this community, and your leadership and your vision and your steadiness is something that I think is deeply, deeply embedded, because we are all better because of you for being here. So thank you.
Okay, no pressure. Would you like to say
Well,
anything?
I've been crying a lot the past few weeks in front of a lot of people, and I'm so happy to be able to do it on TV now. But I just want to say, like, on my way in, I stopped and looked at that quote that we have on the building again. You know, it's one of my favorites. It's the, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, but it's, you know, I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I do know, only those among you who have sought and found how to serve will be truly happy. And I think I understand that better. Allergies are terrible. I think I understand that better after these 15 years than when I came in. It's really humbling to have all of you here. The staff and your passion, your creativity, your professionalism has inspired me every day. And you've carried me through difficult times, and we've celebrated together in good times. And, you know, the friendships and the memories here are just something that I'll carry with me forever. To the board, you've got it right. You focus on people first. People are what make this whole thing work at the end of the day. And serving with you, with your passion for this community, your willingness to do the right thing for the people in this organization and out in the community, and the smart policy decisions you make have made service here meaningful, and it's that meaning that causes happiness. And so I just want to thank you all for this time. I've been able to work with you and serve with you, be friends with you, and I'm gonna miss you a lot.
Bravo.
Thank you so much for being here.
All right, and again, hope to see you all tomorrow night, or Thursday night.
Thursday
or
night,
John's
yeah.
party. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, just trying to trip you on your way out.
Maybe we'll just take 30 seconds to transition the room, grassroots. All right, welcome back everyone to the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners work session on Tuesday, December 9th. I'm going to call a special meeting with the Board of County Commissioners sitting as the Board of Social Services. And we are going to undertake those actions and updates here for the next hour or so. And I'll turn it over to our Director of Human Services. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, good afternoon. Lindsay Maish, Director of Human Services, Pickens County. Thank you for being here today. I'm just going to do a little bit of context setting before we get into the actual agenda. So as you are all aware, we come together, you serve us as the Board of Social Services. Statutorily, you're required to review our financials, expenditures, and client payrolls, or otherwise known as the benefits that go out to our clients. We're a department that is not a traditional social services entity. We have some other services that are housed under us, not just the mandated or statutorily required ones. Those are senior services in the Healthy Community Fund. So just a reminder that when we're reviewing the expenditures and payrolls, that's to review the mandated services that we provide where we receive state and federal funding for. As you know, Colorado is a state supervised, county administered, for now, state human services system. The Colorado Department of Human Services is responsible for all the activities that are provided by local and district human services departments and all of the allocations that are connected to those services as well. Sorry, I woke up and I did not have a voice this morning, so I'll do my best, but I'm going to hand it over to everybody else soon. We rely on you all to serve as the Board of Social Services to oversee our local services and activities that are connected to economic assistance, child welfare, and adult protection. So traditional human services functions are primarily performed by the department. However, because we're so small, we do have some contracts or IGAs that help us provide our mandated services. Those exist with Garfield County Human Services, which they provide child support services for us. So our allocation, essentially, they invoice us, and we use our allocation to pay them for that service, and also long-term care support services. Other mandated services provided through contracts or IGAs include up until last month, so we'll be reviewing this past quarter, so CCAP, but we have now taken CCAP back over. But the quarter that we'll be reviewing will be a CCAP that was provided by Eagle County. And LEAP eligibility determination is provided by the Goodwill for us. So today what we're going to be looking at is third quarter expenditures and payrolls, but just a reminder that the budgets are funky because we run on the state fiscal year, and what we review is the calendar because that's what we budget to. So the numbers can just look a little bit wonky sometimes when we look at them. All right, and without further ado, what I will do is hand it over.
Your part.
This is my part too? Oh, okay. We have some new staff on board, so, and some of them here today. So in our administrative office, we have Cecilia DeLise, who's our new finance analyst. She comes to us with a lot of experience from the private sector. We're very excited. She's a local and has been around here for a long time, so we're very lucky that she came to the county. In economic assistance, eligibility specialist, Samantha Gonzalez, has come to us. In family services, our CCAP and prevention worker, Brenda Kaiser. And in senior services, our assistant chef has been now, we have Dawn Brown serving in that role. So we're very lucky. This has been a really cool cohort. We've been able to recruit some really great talent. So we're very excited to have them on the team. And you're going to hear a little bit from Cecilia today. All right, I already explained all of that, so we'll go over to so we're going to go over now to the third quarter expenditures.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cecilia DeLise.
Yeah, make sure you talk into the mic with the red light on, please.
Yeah, there we go.
This is my first time. Apologize. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cecilia DeLise. As Lindsay explained, I will be walking through the third quarter expenditures. And this is July, the updated July to September, although it's year to date. Okay, so I'm going to start with total programs. Overall programs brought in 2.25 million. The budget was approved for
Sorry.
Overall programs brought in $1,886,000. This is round numbers, which is 67% of the budget. Expenditures were at $2,489,000, or 60% of the budget, leading to a deficit of $602,000. This is actually $742,000 better than expected. Both revenue and expenditures are tracking well with a fiscal year plan, and also reflect timely reporting and use of allocated funds. Now we're going to talk about admin and economic assistance. The year-to-date actuals is $857,000, or 64% of budget, and expenditures are $1,280,000, or 55% of budget. This leaves a deficit of $422,000, but this is actually $560,000 or $570,000 better than planned. The improvement comes mainly due to staff savings. We have some open positions throughout the year, right? Now we're moving to Colorado Works, TANF. Revenue is $125,000, or 69% of budget. It's slightly below expectation. This is a timing. Expenditures are $59,000, 51% of budget, leaving a small surplus of $67,000. This is in line with budget and reflect timing of state reimbursement. CCAP, childcare, revenue is $225,000, or 64% of budget, and expenditures is $248,000, or 58% of budget, resulting in a deficit of $23,000. However, this is $54,000 better than expected due to higher provider rates and more families eligible for support. Trends are expected to remain stable. Child welfare revenue is $597,000, which is 70% of budget, and expenditures are $739,000, 72% of budget, leaving a deficit of $142,000. This is $33,000 better than planned. The improvement comes from more timely billing of outside legal counsel. Now remember that this is one of the biggest program costs. Adult protection revenue is $50,000, round numbers, or 103% of budget, slightly over. Expenditures are $117,000, or 51% of budget. The deficit of $67,000 is $115,000 better than expected. Revenue is above expected levels, and expenditure are well below budget. Child support services, revenue is $31,000, or 70% of budget, but expenditures are higher than expected at $46,000, or 154%, resulting in a deficit of $14,000, almost $15,000, and $20,000 or $30,000 worse than expected. High case loads are driving the overspending.
There's one other factor for that one, I believe. I think the other factor for child support is.
Red light on.
Sorry, thank you. The other factor for child support is that we came before you and did a supplemental, and that had not yet been adjusted in the budget. So you're not seeing that supplemental yet in there. So next quarter should look a little different.
Great. The Colorado Department of Human Services is finishing up final allocations and mitigations, and any overspending will be reconciled at the end of this year. Would you want to go to the next slide? Now we're going to, the next chart is the third quarter expenditures only, showing by quarters. And you can see that in most of the programs, the trends is very consistent. However, for economic assistance and child welfare, quarter 2 is higher than quarter 1 and quarter 3, and this is due to direct client benefits. Any questions?
I just want to confirm the 1.3 million deficit is our transfer from Healthy Community Fund funds to these expenditures?
The Human Services Fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mill levy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the statute, right. So it's the 80/20s and all the split
Okay.
reimbursements.
Got it. Other questions? If not, may I please have a motion to approve the third quarter expenditures?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Francie. Thank you, Jeffrey. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And sorry, I'm sorry that Greg and Patty aren't here. They both have some medical things that they're dealing with today. So,
They're gonna miss a good conversation.
all right, let's keep going. All right. These are what we call payrolls, right?
We renamed them to be
Okay.
direct client benefits, so they make more sense. I
Got
don't know
it.
why they historically were called that, so.
Great. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Norma Saldana. I'm Economic Assistance Manager and wanted to address the third quarter of 2025. For the program, the Aid to the Needy Disabled, we have currently 2 cases. The program insurance has doubled compared to the same period in 2024. The growth likely linked to ongoing outreach with community partners like Recovery Resource, and other entities, partners that we also have, and we do explain the program for them for we can get our clients. Colorado Child Care Assistance Program for CCAP. The
Participation. You're doing great.
participation has doubled from 2024 to 2025. Increase driving by November 2024. The policy change expanding eligibility up to 300 of the federal poverty level. So currently we do have 45 active authorizations and 33 open cases. So it has been growing. So this demonstrates the strong county commitment to supporting working families. Our program, the Old Age Pension, we have received into today 24 applications. We actually do have 12 active cases. Overall, the program disbursement has declined from last year. And the barriers of this is because we have a strict eligibility, limit income, resources, a high cost of living here, clients delaying early Social Security enrollment, client mobility, and housing instability. That's why we have a low participation. The LEAP program, that is the Low Income Energy Assistance Program, the enrollment period from November 1st, it goes from November 1st all the way to April 30th. Early outreach began September through social media. There was a social media event for that in September for we can do our kickoff on November 1st. Applications are increased there were 59 total in 2024. And as from January until right now, we did receive 147 applications. For 2025, we're still working and finding out how many there will be enrolled into now. So this outreach has been increased. Colorado Works, TANF. The participation has declined compared to 2024. Primary reason, more clients exceeding income eligibility. We have received 26 applications received year to date. That includes fundings for our community partners has been for the Aspen Youth Center and the Cottage Daycare to help our community. And there has been a total of 11,970 in TANF funding services, including the third quarter expenses. Programs continues to support housing, assistance, utilities, and family stabilization services. Now we go with the SNAP program, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. The quarter 2025, we did receive 208 regular applications, 77 expedited applications. We have currently a case load of 221 active cases and 291 individual served. The participations remain stable comparing to the quarter 2024. Any questions?
What is the maximum provider rate for CCAP? Do you know?
Know what it is?
The maximum provider rate.
We can get you that information. I don't know it off the top of my
Curious
head.
what the day rate is for childcare these days.
$98 or something like
Okay.
that a day. Yeah, I can't remember exactly. I think it's
That's
in the
coming up.
90s though.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Good to hear.
We are the highest. Us and Eagle County have the highest provider reimbursement rate.
Sure, makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm curious how the new district might affect application to CCAP.
CCAP is not involved in the redistricting discussion right now.
Okay.
We'll talk about that
Okay.
soon. Yeah.
And do you consider that, like if other scholarship is given in context of CCAP applications? Like when a family applies for CCAP funds, do they have to say whether or not they're receiving other childcare subsidy or anything like that? Like Kids First or?
They will need to this, well, actually for CCAP, they need to apply with us first before we hand it over to Kids First.
Okay.
So they need to be declined in our end for they can
I
go
see.
over them. Yes.
Okay.
And they actually needs to disclose all the information that is needed in the application.
Got it.
Do they ask about universal preschool in the application?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Because that's the
helpful.
other subsidy
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
doesn't communicate well with
Sure.
CCAP.
Yeah, yeah. And there's worse problems to have than more funding streams for childcare, even if they're not talking to each other.
Right.
We have new funding streams here in
Yeah.
our valley, so
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I just want to understand if I heard correctly that the application for SNAP has held steady year over year.
Yes.
Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, correct. There has been stable. It has been stable from the last quarter on 2024 right now.
Okay. And did anyone have issues accessing their benefits in the last quarter? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, they all did.
No, well,
yeah,
what
they
does
were
that
all
look
on
like,
hold.
though? I
They
mean-
did end up getting them
Okay.
though.
Yes.
Yeah, every SNAP recipient ended up getting
Were any of
theirs.
them wiped? Like, was any of their balances wiped out?
No.
Okay.
No. They did had a hard time in November. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
First few weeks of November were tough.
Yes.
Okay.
We included that in the memo. We're not going to present on it today,
Okay,
though.
thank
But all the information about how many, like the gift card program and all
Yeah,
of that
yeah.
stuff is in there. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Other questions? Okay. If there's, can I have a motion to approve direct client benefits for the third quarter?
I'll move.
Thank you,
Second.
Francie. Thank you, Jeffrey. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
So today we are both celebrating John Peacock's last Board of Social Services meeting.
Yeah.
We're also celebrating Sam's last Board of Social Services meeting.
Really?
So,
Minnesota.
Not right away.
I get them all confused.
where I would like to honor both independently, that's going to be hard to do. So, I will say a little bit just about the anticipated changes and sort of what we're doing to make sure that we're taken care of, and that our staff are steady and stable. But the one thing that I truly cannot even begin to understand or even conceptualize is how this is going to dynamically change the organization, John, with you leaving. You are leaving some legacy. I think Kara did a good job speaking to some of those things. I mean, the kindness, steadiness, I've learned a lot from you, so thank you for that. Yep. And Sam, I like, if you knew how much work Sam has done for this organization and the region, really, he doesn't really talk about it. And I try to talk about it a lot, but I don't think words will never do justice to speak to the things that, the efforts around food security, standing up SANA, McFinn's, strategic planning, right? I think you have been an instrument in this valley for food security in ways that let us be able to serve the community during COVID in a way that we couldn't have if it wasn't for the work that you had done. So I don't know how that's going to shift the way we are in the region anymore once you step away, and I don't want to know, but I have a feeling we're going to find out. But I just have so much gratitude, and thank you so much for your service to Pitkin County. You too, John. I have been so lucky to work alongside you two brilliant minds. So thank you. Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about the big, beautiful bill.
Well, I just want to take a moment.
Sorry,
I also want to honor Sam for his work on the Financial Empowerment Center, which is like truly revolutionary and one of the first of its kind. And I think so impactful, and such an amazing idea for how to use our stimulus funds, which we believed should be intended to lift up the most vulnerable in our community. And not only did we do that through temporary measures, but through really long-lasting achieving, impactful achievement like the FEC and other things. And so I really enjoyed working with you on that, and I'm so grateful to you. I'm really sorry to lose you, and I wish you the best. Yeah.
Well, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to say something.
Sure.
So you're moving away from Colorado?
Yeah, in May I'm moving back to Minnesota to take on the family farm and do some consulting work around food security and financial stability.
Yay. Bravo. Let me know if you need a reference.
Historically, it's been an organic beef farm, but we're going to probably look at doing regenerative ag and the nonprofit based off the farm.
Oh, that is so exciting. That is really cool. Well, you've been incredible in the taking care of other people business, so I wish you luck being a animal husband.
Thanks.
For everything you've done, Sam. It's been a pleasure to know you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, guess we got to get on with the work of the day. That's so it's hard about these goodbyes. Like, how do you move on?
All right. Well, I'm going to hand
Hello,
it over to
everyone.
Hamid. Yep. Hamid is going to talk about House Reconciliation Bill number 1. So introduce yourself, Hamid, and then
Of course.
go ahead and get into it.
Hamid Ran here. I'm the management analyst for Human Services. So talking about House Reconciliation 1 is not just difficult, it is also a little heartbreaking. But here we are. As you know that it's often called One Big Beautiful Bill, and it brings major changes to public benefits that we haven't seen in decades. So today we are going to talk about 3 major areas that what changed and why people are going to lose their benefits, and most importantly, what locally it is going to impact us as Pitkin County. So very quickly about the roles that changed. So the most important one is able-bodied adults without dependents. So before the age was between 18 to 49 for the adults, now they expanded the age to 64. Also, the dependent age was so they could be exempt of working if they had child under 18. Right now it is under 14. So many people who have children between 14 to 17 and they were exempt, they are going to lose their benefits. So that is one of the main reasons that they are going to lose their benefits. And right now, ABOD is required 80 hours of work a month, but it is like not exactly like work. For example, they can also do volunteer work and they will count for that ABOD program. So one of the things that probably will hit us as a mountain city or mountain county, that because utilities are really expensive in our city, so heat is going to hit us probably really big. So what is happening before, if the clients had expenses for heat and electricity, gas and electricity, they would get highest deduction for utilities. Like it was like over $500, right, Norma? So right now what is happening, so it will start in October 2026, and ABOD already started October 2025. So because of that, just in parentheses, I just say it here before I forget, if you see that there is a slightly different numbers between mine and Norma, because my numbers are affected end of September, but Norma's is year to date. So it is because of that, but it is just slightly different. So what will happen, going back to that Heat and Eat program, before, if the client was qualified for LEAP, doesn't matter how much they are receiving from LEAP, they would still get the highest deduction. But starting October 2026, even if they are receiving only $1 from LEAP, they will get like $70 basic deduction, which will reduce their SNAP significantly. So then the next category, let's talk about Medicaid. So starting January 2027, it is going to require that they have to work 80 hours a month, and it is for ages 19 to 64. So it is the main reasons that clients are going to lose their benefits. And you have the timeline in memo, and I see on the screen, I see like HR1 like an onion. There is like a million layers in it. It is just in each area. And even when you are looking at timing, you see that it is going from 2025 to all the way down January 2029. So let's talk about the most important part, that how locally it is going to impact us. So for Medicaid is the only area that we cannot have the dollar-wise, how it is going to impact our client dollar-wise, because we don't have any data that in last year how many they spent on medical. It is just a third party. We don't have any data about that. But currently, again, as end of September 2025, we had 1,159 Pitkin County residents that enrolled to Medicaid. So 175 of these residents are going to lose their benefits. So we looked it up that what age group is going to lose their benefits mostly. Number one, it will hit ages between 25 to 44. 93 people in that age range are going to lose their benefits. 45 to 64 years old is the second largest number, that 71 people are going to lose their benefits, and 18 to 24 is the smallest number, that 11 people are going to lose their Medicaid. Before I move to SNAP, is there any question? Yes,
Go ahead,
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
So let's say I'm in that 25 to 44 bracket. What's the path that staff then puts them on? Do they go back into Obamacare? Where do they go? Where do you go from there?
So you're saying that if they don't qualify for Medicaid, what is the next step?
They're not meeting the requirements. They're not
Uh-huh.
working the 80 hours a month, or they requalify. They're meeting their work requirements. So how do we, in other words, service that population going forward? Where do they fall from here?
They will actually fall.
Move. Sorry.
Right, yeah. They will actually will need to go with Connect for Health
Right.
and look for a private insurance. And depending on their income is depending on their premiums that they will be paying monthly. So that's how it will go. Whenever a client doesn't qualify Medicaid, next step will be Connect for Health. Free market. Did that answer your question?
No, it does. It does.
Yeah.
So in the next quarterly update, will you come back and say, look, of this 175 that have lost their benefits, we're tracking them. They've now moved over to private, or we no longer see them.
I can let you know how many disenrolled population went in Pekin County in that quarter, but I'm not able to find out how many they enroll into Connect for Health. So, and I'm able to see that in the dashboard of CVMS.
Go ahead.
And so, and they'll likely see a 4x increase in premiums versus what they're paying for Medicaid?
It could be. I don't know as of right now. I mean, things are changing like every minute. I mean, it's surprising that every meeting that we go, it's like different changes, and it's hard to keep up. But yeah, I will be able to get those numbers next year.
Thank you.
They don't currently pay anything for Medicaid.
Sorry.
Yeah, so
It's more than 4x.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. So the option is to not have any health care at all and end up in emergent care and push up costs and all that.
which I wouldn't wonder if isn't why we see such a low number in that 18 to 24 age group already, because maybe a lot of those folks aren't getting on Medicaid to begin with.
It'll be important for us to be collaborating really closely with Mountain Family Health Centers through these changes over the next few years to make sure just to kind of keep an eye on, right now we're doing a per member per month of uninsured, and watching that uninsured rate. Let's see if it starts to go up or kind of what starts to happen there. That will probably be the way we can gather data also, is by comparing it next to our FQHC.
Yes, Jeffrey and then John. Okay, John, then Jeffrey.
And I just want to note, though it's outside of this presentation, there are broader downstream impacts that we could expect to have impact us as an organization and other employers, which is, there's the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, EMTALA, which requires emergency services to be provided. It's the most expensive, least efficient way to provide those services. And then the hospitals have to make that up by increasing their chargeable rates and fees, which then comes back to employers and individual payers. And so there's going to be some longitudinal issues to watch and anticipate at all levels for the board.
And just sorry, go ahead, Jeffrey, and then I'll ask my
I
question.
can go third. It's okay.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
My question
Sorry.
was really, is there any, and it sort of dovetails actually on John's, which is there any potential federal legislation pending through Congressman Hurd's office, et cetera, that would impact what you come back with in 90 days?
Great question. Yeah, I don't know.
There's been discussion about, I think the first big impact would be restoring the tax credits, the COVID era tax credits, which would make the exchange plans, Connect Colorado, more affordable. There's likely to still be a donut hole, though, between, I would imagine, those rates and what's affordable for individuals or families that were relying on Medicaid. And there's, to my knowledge, and this may be a good question for tomorrow with Cozen, there's nothing that's talking about filling that donut hole, which has existed, except that we're losing some Medicaid coverage now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not hearing anything at the state level either.
Right.
There is one, I just heard this morning about a legislative item that they're bringing. I think Gilchrist is bringing it forward for fiscal notes to be included when there are program changes. That's
Right.
the most, that's the most right now that I'm hearing. We'll see once session starts. I think it starts to get a little wild with the discussion around regionalization, centralization. There's probably going to be a whole legislative package, I would imagine, because the state doesn't have any money.
And Mountain Family will treat uninsured, right? On
Yeah.
a sliding scale. Yeah. Okay. Is there a lag period if you get kicked off Medicaid to when you can enroll and Connect for Colorado, or does that count as like a qualifying
Event.
Okay.
It's like a life event,
Yeah.
they call it.
Okay.
So, yeah, they will not have a gap as they go as soon as possible there.
Okay. Thank you.
Kelly, can I make one more? Just since it's
Please.
my last minute, I'm just going to
Yes,
keep talking.
yes.
You know, I think it's also important for the board to be tracking as it relates to Mountain Family Health. As that uninsured number goes up, the subsidy that's required by Mountain Family Health to continue offering those services is going to go up. And who's paying that subsidy right now is Pickens County, the hospital, and Trumbull County. And so there's another budget implication there. It's been an important partnership to provide primary care, behavioral health, and dental services regardless of ability to pay. But I think we're all a little concerned about what the long-term impacts are and budgetary impacts will be if our uninsured rates do increase significantly.
Yeah. Jeffrey.
Is there a walking around number what that shortfall may be on a quarterly basis, or just?
So that's something that Kelly's asked for in the past, and it's been difficult to project. We have been working with Mountain Family Health to try and get projections on it, and they're struggling with the numerous variables involved as expressed earlier.
I mean, there was a once upon a time concern prior to COVID where their reserves were very, very small and like potentially within weeks of closing before these, some of these subsidies kicked in and programs kicked in. So that's probably the only lesson learned in a factual basis.
And they've been making a lot of adjustments to their business model. Those opportunities will cease at some point without really affecting services.
Okay. Keep going. We can, I know.
Thank
this is
you.
the
My
worst.
guts were saying that Jeffrey will have hard questions. So thank you to everyone jumping in and answering those questions. I appreciate it. So let's talk about SNAP. So as of end of September, 275 Pitkin County residents were receiving SNAP benefits. So based on new rules on HR 1, 83 residents are going to lose their benefits. And the annual cost for that are going to lose their benefits is going to be about $267,000. So a very small portion of these individuals are going to lose their benefits partially, but most of them are going to lose it full benefits. So, and then we have the chart here that one of them are talking what are the reasons that they are going to lose their benefits. So the highest one is the ABOD rules, that because of that, so they don't have dependent, under 14 years old, they are not working, they are not exempt, so they are going to lose their benefits. So the work requirement is the second one, and then combined ABOD and work requirement is the third one. Again, when we are looking at the age group, 25 to 44 years old are the largest age group that they are going to lose their benefits. 42 individuals are going to lose it. 45 to 64 years old, 29 people, and 18 to 24 years old, 12 people are going to lose their benefits. So before we move to adult financial, any question about the SNAP?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, does that number track with folks that are on disability of those age groups?
No, because they are exempt, so they won't lose their benefits.
I see.
I know you could say it was in the memo, but which is great. But when we started the year, we said we're not going to jump. We're going to think strategically. John would say we're picking. We have statutory requirements, but we really have a level of service that we provide. And so I guess when we're all together, what did we do right in the city market sort of reaction? What did we learn? What changed in Gray's business? What did Gray learn? Like, what are the lessons that the board should know when all of a sudden we've increased food insecurity because of it's on, it's off, it's in the Supreme Court? So like when you're looking at it from the consumer standpoint, reading the New York Times every day, it was wavering. It's great, it's back again. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? Where did we blink?
Do you want to talk about it? It's up. I mean, that's what your heart is,
Yeah.
food security.
And what should we do better next time? So it's really like, and even you could say we did X wrong, which is fine.
I think honestly, Picking County's response was great in the sense that it didn't waffle back and forth. We were feeling that. The media was giving folks that feeling, and I think really sticking to the path, making the decision, saying this is how we're going to support this if it happens. When it did, sticking to that plan so that people knew you could get food cards, you could go to Harvest for Hunger, and not kind of following the trend of, well, now they're issuing some. And, we didn't see super high utilization on the cards, but people were very appreciative that they were there. And Gray saw over, a 50% increase that's hung on.
Right.
Post benefits being reissued. We're not back down to where we were before. I mean, it dropped a little, but we are higher than we were before. So it brought in, I think, some folks who obviously needed those resources and now have access to them. So I think what Picking County's best thing in this has been is supporting these resources that support the whole community rather than depending on these federal programs that are, a little not as effective as we'd like to see. So, yeah.
I would just add that, because we have a social safety net here that is so strong because of the Healthy Community Fund, it positioned the food partners in a way that allowed them to be able to very quickly pivot and be able to meet the needs. I mean, it was when we were looking at it in the face, saying this is going to happen, we're going to have a shutdown. Was already on the phone with Gray, and he said, "Just tell me what to do." So he was able to pivot as long as we could find him space, right? So I think just the collaborative partnerships that we have with the social safety net, I don't know that people recognize the impact of the Healthy Community Fund and just how much it supports our business and our community. That social safety net, if we didn't have it, we'd have SNAP and that would be it. So without that additional, right, without lift up in their food bags, their emergency bags, right, without all of the moving parts in the system, the social safety net, I would say that it's just it's not that I learned that lesson. It was validated again. Like, yes, we need our social safety net. We need our nonprofit partners to be able to meet the needs of this community. And we're going to see probably another influx when we have folks who are on J-1 visas coming to work, and they're living in Meralt, and there's the food pantry right there. So we're already anticipating that and looking at trying to find more space, because I don't think food security is something that's going to resolve over the next few years. I think just based on what you're looking at here, we're going to see increases in need for good, healthy food.
Other questions?
An observation, I guess. When this board gave away we handed out the MACE Awards a couple weeks ago, and since it's everyone's day to cry, my thought the whole time was, wow, this is things I thought the government did. This is things I thought the government did. And what we were handing out awards for were really people standing up in the community for what we thought we would get from the government at the end of the day. So just, sorry, observation. But thank you for what you guys do every day.
Yeah, the Healthy Community Fund is, I mean, the amount that we get, as you've seen in our expenditures and in our budgets, the allocations are not enough to do that work. It's not. So
Do we have more room for gray at the building?
we're working on it.
Okay.
Trying to figure that out.
Okay.
Okay, keep going.
Then about adult financial, so we have 13 residents receiving adult financial. 3 of them are going to lose their benefits, and dollar-wise, it will be about $17,000 annually. So again, the reason is the work requirement. It is related to a SNAP work requirement or Medicaid work requirement. And all 3 people that are going to lose their benefits are between ages 45 and 64. So those were all the local impacts for HR1. Any question about adult financial? Lindsay and Norma will answer. I'm not.
I'm not seeing any. Thank you.
All right, now I'm just going to talk a little bit about, so that's HR1. That's the big, beautiful bill. And that's actually separate of what's happening at the state right now with some of the human services reform. The reason that there's human services reform is because they're looking at HR1 saying, how the heck are we going to do this with increased error rates, right? If right now where our error rates as a state sit, we will be sanctioned for, like, you have to be 6% or under on error rates. Of those errors, we are responsible as a local government for 1/3 of them. The rest is responsible through CBMS, through technology, and through different state pathways. So if we want to get our error rate below 6%, so that the counties, we just learned today on legislative call that the counties will be the ones that will be sanctioned for those match rates on errors. So whatever the error rate is, it's not the state that's going to pay for it, because we're county administered. The federal guidelines say that it will be the county that will have to pay for it. So we were proposed a realignment or a reform of the way that we do business. This was given to us 1 week before we went to CCI. So we had not heard, and none of the human services directors had heard of any of this so far. So it's 2 separate parts, the reform. And essentially, kind of the big picture of this is moving away from a county administered system to a hybrid, no longer state administered or state run, county administered. It will now be state run, regionally administered. So it's kind of, there's a few other states who have done it. And it's meant to do 2 things. It's meant to do risk mitigation for error rates, and it's meant to reduce costs. So the first overhaul is the centralization of services. There's 4 separate things they're wanting to centralize services for. Document management, which is scanning, all the scanning of documents, a call center, fraud investigations, and quality assurance. So this, the other thing I'll say is that this actually, this makes sense in a lot of ways, because you've probably heard that we're overspent on our administrative dollars. We are underfunded is the way that the counties look at it, is that we have been underfunded, which is why things like quality assurance, fraud investigations, we don't have a fraud investigations department. We don't have a quality assurance department. That is your department right there, is Norma. And Norma also is running the department while also running community initiatives as well. So we are not unique in that way. Many counties are not doing quality assurance and fraud investigations, and they're thinking that's risk mitigation, right? That's if we have a centralized way to ensure that those things are happening, ideally you would want to see your error rates decrease then. The call center and document management, they're the association, the Colorado Department of Human Services, or directors, excuse me, my voice. Let's see how much longer I can go. They're taking a position on document management and call center because none of that makes sense to us. We have a lot of paper applications that come in through our office. We are responsible for scanning those things in. We can't really imagine how that would happen otherwise. The second overhaul, the regionalization. So they're talking about these things separately, but it's really hard to talk about them separately because they happen together. The regionalization is districting. There's been a first draft of district that has come out now. I believe it's 11 districts. They went back and forth between 4 and 11. They just gave us 11 yesterday. And these are the programs that would be under the regionalization of services. And basically what that means is that, like, just look at if our region was Pitkin, Eagle, Garfield, there would be a hub. And the hub would be the organization that is doing all of those services. The way that impacts our local offices, they are ensuring that it doesn't change any of our staffing models. We don't understand how that could be if you have a hub and spoke model. So right now, the areas of deep concern around these efforts are that the technology is not in place to be able to do this. CBMS, sorry?
You said the technology of?
The technology to be able to do a centralized services delivery in districting does not exist right now. So counties are on different systems for different things. We use HS Connects, others use different, some use Laserfish, some use, there is no centralization right now that has happened in terms, there's no infrastructure around the technology. And if you've heard anything about CBMS, you've heard that it's not a system that supports Coloradoans the way that in a perfect world it would. So that's one of the areas. There's a lot of legal and compliance risk here that we're looking at with these two things. We haven't had district attorneys or local attorneys. I have sent this out to our attorney, the proposal, because when you have other counties doing fraud investigation and quality assurance for you, we haven't shaken out some of the impacts of that. Also, the regionalization, having a hub, the security concerns that we look at with getting other counties access to our system, our people. So that goes back to the information technology as well. It's just not there right now to be able to make these types of changes. The association believes that by doing this without the infrastructure and understanding of compliance and legal risks, our error rates are going to go up. Because when you make this kind of change, you have to anticipate that error rates will go up at first before they actually neutralize and find some sort of homeostasis after that. And then the other deep concern that we're having is just what are the impacts across Colorado? So Big 10 versus rural versus resort rural versus frontier rural, right? That's just not being taken into account right now. And we're looking, and so there are small work groups that are looking at the data to hopefully get in front of the JBC before this Friday. We understand that the executive directors will be presenting to the JBC on Friday. The association has drafted a letter with those concerns, and then some propositions of how we move forward. You know, we currently are doing some of this stuff. We talked about it at the beginning with intergovernmental agreements. We have Eagle County helping us with CCAP when we need the help. So there are mechanisms right now that are working. And so what we're proposing is, the Directors Association, is that we take the things that are working right now and start to look at error rates. When we looked at SNAP timeliness rates over the last 2 years, our timeliness increased and we were at 95% or better. So if we can start to look at some of those things while doing some other creative ideas around shared services, we're not sure why this has to start January 1st and be fully implemented by July. This concept. I've never seen government work that fast. So I'm wondering how we would do something like this without seeing some huge impacts to Coloradoans in the way that they're actually accessing services. Things will fall through the cracks. Go ahead.
Jeffrey?
So has the administration provided a fiscal statement to go along with this draconian act of changing the way the state delivers services at the same time? What we just heard from Hamid through HR 1, it seems like, so the architect, it seems like we're changing the foundation in the first floor while building the second all in the same year.
That's right.
Is there a fiscal note attached to this draconian move?
So they've proposed the first year where there will be that, well, and it has been, I believe, approved by the governor, but not by the Joint Budget Committee yet, to have $10 million to help oversee and implement these changes in the next year.
For everybody to share.
Just for the state.
Yeah.
Only for the
But
state.
everybody in the state.
Yeah, so that's how, like, the RFP. They're saying it will not impact our allocations. That's yet to be. I'm not sure how that could be. So.
I mean, isn't CBMS a $1 billion problem and they're offering $10 million to fix statewide non-overlapping magistrates?
Well, and to do those two things at the same time, right? They're looking at doing CBMS overhaul in the beginning of this next year. So to do that while also doing this, it doesn't make sense, right? I think that's most of the commissioners who sat in this space at CCI, you're aware that there's a lot of pushback. And I don't disagree that the way counties have overspent our administrative dollars is illustrative of something that's not working, right? It is the system itself does not work. Do you change it in 6 months and turn it on its head? I don't know. I think we'll be watching our error rates probably increase over that time, if that's what happens, if that's what ends up happening. So any advocacy on behalf of local.
How does this interact with our county contributions to these programs?
So
Or any other county that may have a fund that they...
So what I'm hearing across other counties right now is that because of the increased error rates, we would see an increase to our match, right? So right now, what our current mill levy covers in the Human Services Fund for match, that will increase. So a lot of directors are going to their commissioners and saying, we better plan for this. We're going to probably be seeing an increase over the next 1 to 2 years based on error rates. So there's a good chance we'll see that. What we can't and what we're still sort of sitting on trying to understand is the impact to the workload and to the community. And the workload is something that's why we have an FT position sitting there waiting for us to come back to you in the event that we say, okay, now we need this because this additional workload on on its own is going to be hugely. I mean, even just redetermining eligibility every 6 months versus every year, right? We didn't even get into some of that stuff, and that's the workload impacts. We're talking about just how it's going to affect the community today, but I don't know. I think it's going to be big. I think the impact will be big, and so it will come down to what our current mill levy is to cover the Human Services Fund and our reimbursements, the county reimbursement. That's probably going to increase. Yeah. I don't really see a world how it doesn't at this point.
I guess I was just wondering if there are some guarantees that whatever, that our availability of a local fund doesn't then subsidize like another county's charge, because now you're regionalized, and they sort of consider it all one pot of money.
I hadn't even thought of that. But I'll bring that up to I think that's something probably the lawyers need to look at as well, because it's statutory that the mill levy, the Human Services mill levy, covers whatever our matches are to be able to provide the mandated services. And so if those go up, and we've been functioning on this mill levy for this long, and now we're regionalizing it, are we giving our money to Garfield County or to Eagle County now to be able to provide these statutorily required services?
Become different because of that local source.
I will make sure to bring that. There's 2 work groups right now. There's a finance work group that Cecilia is going to be sitting on because she has a lot of experience with projecting and forecasting. And there's also the attorneys group that's looking over. I think there were 60. They said there were 60 attorneys on the call reviewing it this week. So I think there's some legal implications around how you would hire somebody regionally to be doing our work, but the state is overseeing them, but we're overseeing, if we were the region hub, we're overseeing HR. We hired them, so there's a lot of questions around HR and how that actually shakes out.
Okay. More to come. What's next?
Now we're going to do a quick overview of our Human Services Strategic Plan to show you how we're planning to roll with all these changes over the next few years.
I realize we're over time, so this maybe will be the fastest overview of a strategic plan ever. Do we have 5 minutes?
Well,
no, but that's all right. This is important.
Yep, we didn't start.
Great.
Till
Well,
later. Yep.
really, we just wanted to give you a quick overview of where we are in our strategic planning process. We've been working on it a better part of this year. We are going to be wrapping it up here at the end of the year, set to launch for 2026. It's a 5-year strategic plan. If we want to go to the next one. And you have seen some of this before, right? So we want to just start with a recap. All of this, I'm really happy to say, has been really ground up. Staff has been involved in really every aspect of this. We've brought our partners into it, did SWOT analyses with internal, external partners. So we feel like we've got a pretty good view of what folks think of human services and what we need to be looking for. So our vision is a resilient, equitable, connected community, and our mission is to partner with our community to reduce barriers and create pathways to well-being. Our values, real quick here, this was a fun process. We actually used AI for this because we had our group come together to pick our values. And if 30 people trying to pick 5 values is tough. And so when you see, we've got compassion, integrity, collaboration, excellence, and respect. And the little blurb you see after each one is kind of what was encompassed into that, because we asked everybody, what are your top 5 values? So we got 30 times 550, probably different ones. But what was really neat is when we came back as a group and we brought what AI had kicked out, everybody said, yeah, actually those work. So it felt really collaborative and people felt involved in the process. Our next step was to create our strategic plan goals, our big buckets, our big rocks. And what we came up with is strengthening access and services, championing a resilient team, advancing community well-being, and cultivating collaborative partnerships. And we actually did a community survey on this, which did help us tailor this. We did get some feedback. And so one of the things we had, can we go back? One of the things we actually initially had was champion a resilient workforce. And what the feedback we heard was What do you mean? What workforce? Your workforce, the community workforce, etc. But what we really like about these buckets is it's very clear. We've got our services, we've got our internal team, we've got working with the community, and then our partnerships both within Pickens County and within the community. And just really quick here, I'm not going to read each of these. Our next step in the strategic plan, which we've just wrapped up, is creating our objectives. These really start to take those big kind of philosophical goal areas and start driving them towards the technical work we're going to do. This was a process we did with the entire team. I think our team's fingerprints are really all over this. We wanted these in very common language so folks could understand what we're trying to do, how it supports the different goal areas. I think we can just kind of flip through. Everybody's read these in the memo. We're not going to go through each one. And just for your information, the next steps in this process, which are actually already happening, is divisional strategy sessions. So strategies are the how do we get this done? We've actually started doing this work already with all the teams. Folks are doing some pre-work to really pick which objectives they feel strongly about and put in their own input on the strategies. After that, our management team will get together, do the measure and targets, which is really budget. How do we get this done? And then we just want to make sure that it works along with our county strategic plan. We've had that in mind the whole time. We want this to be in alignment, as well as the, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, the 2025 comp plan. And then you will all get to see a full written draft document, probably after I'm gone, but it should be, we want to make sure that it looks good to you all before we implement this, and that it works with everything that we're trying to be in alignment with across the county and in the community. And hopefully that drives our next 5 years.
Yes, that's wonderful. Okay, and then do we have to ratify the contracts that you signed at all? Okay.
No, they're just there for you to see. We'll come back in February for is it February, Hamid? Yes. For a formal resolution where we'll have
That's when
all
we
of them
ratify
from the
them.
whole year.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any final questions for Human Services?
Oh, no, just I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves well, because this is not fun or easy.
Oof, and don't read the news.
And it
first
is
thing in the
somewhat
morning.
depressing. So I hope you guys are doing the self-care you need to do.
Thanks, Francie. Jeffrey.
Have any counties or municipalities stood up and said absolutely no, like hell no, on shared services and districting?
Not yet. I don't think it's going to trend in that. I do think there's some solutions that can be found here. Collectively, I think the implementation of this information we could have been pulled in early July to start talking about it, the county directors, of how this actually looks. But I think now that the initial shock value is sort of over, now we're really on the ground working to figure out what is the solution together. We don't think it's this, but we think there is a middle ground that we can find. Because we don't love to overspend our admin, right? No county feels like they're fully funded for these programs to be able to do all the things that are required. So if there's ways for us to do it in a way where our eligibility staff can really focus on the person, because that's what we want to do. That's all we want to do, is focus on the people in our community, not have to worry about all that other stuff. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say, when I was on a retreat with a bunch of county commissioners for one of our organizations, and governor's office staff were there presenting to us just 2 days before this all came out, and it never came up. And that's stunning. It's a stunning lack of stakeholder engagement. Anyway. All right, onward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank you
to
all
see
so
all.
much. Yes,
Appreciate you
thank
all. Happy
you.
holidays to you. Sam, best of luck.
Thanks.
If there's a going away party, I want to get invited.
Well, and I'm going to be around through June
Oh,
doing
okay.
pro bono work for nonprofits. So
Oh, great.
I'll probably be here.
Okay, I love that.
Just getting the heck out of
Good luck with farming. Sam, good luck with farming.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know you're going to get super rich doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a high income profession.
I'm happy.
All right, let's welcome up our budget team. We are going to continue our special meeting in order to adopt a resolution of the budget and appropriation of funds for fiscal year 2026, as well as levying general property tax for the year 2025 to help defray the cost of government and its special districts.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Connie. We've lost Jeffrey, but we'll keep going. He'll resume.
He'll be back.
Okay, this afternoon we're
And
pleased.
sorry. Patty and Greg are both out with health issues. So was Greg on? Greg was on. Okay, he's been sort of trying to jump on and off, but yeah, he's on. Okay, maybe promote him to panelist. Great.
And Jeffrey's
Thank
back.
you. Great. All right, let's go.
Okay.
Can we make it warmer?
This
Hard to tell sometimes with you, Jeffrey.
Please, Connie, you have the floor.
we're pleased to present the final version of the 2026 Pitkin County budget this afternoon. And developing the budget is always a very collaborative process, and it involves staff from every single county department in many different position levels. So I want to start off by thanking all of the different department staff that have worked so hard on their budgets, developing them, and then they've also been flexible to make adjustments and changes that were needed to be able to balance the budget and come up with the final version. So a big shout out to everyone who's been working on this. The 2026 county budget addresses key board priorities and the goals of Pitkin County's strategic plan. It's also responsive to the changing federal landscape and to our local community needs. So I think we've come up with a good version here. The budget in this second resolution is amended to include minor changes in the property tax and treasurer's fees budget lines. So you will see that. The property tax is about $67,000 less overall than the first reading. This revised version also has the addition of one new FTE in the Open Space and Trails Fund. The total revenue in the 2026 Pitkin County budget is $301.6 million. And total expenditures are $312 million. And the difference between those two numbers is about $10.5 million, and that comes from prior year savings that are being used mainly to fund capital projects. The result of this budget is a projected $172 million fund balance at the end of 2026, a very healthy fund balance representing 94% of operational expenditures. State statute requires...
Can I ask you a question right there?
Please.
That seems really insanely positive and rosy. What am I missing?
Some of the fund balance is coming from the airport.
Just receiving the funds before spending them?
Yes.
Okay.
If we're issuing debt, of course, it depends on how the timing actually plays out along the way. That can be true also in the Solid Waste Center or some of the other funds where they're saving up in order to then spend down on capital projects. But many of our funds work that way, and it's cyclical, where they'll save up for a few years and then spend down on a larger capital project.
Okay. Thank you, Connie.
So state statute requires that we appropriate also the transfers to other funds, not just the expenditures. And this actually kind of doubles up the costs of those transfers. So instead of seeing $312 million in the budget resolution, you'll see $329.7 million. And this chart shows how that plays out in the different funds. Then once the board has approved the budget, you're required to set county mill levies. And this chart shows the final assessed valuations. They decreased 2.47% from last year. And The chart shows the final valuation, the gross mill levy, that would be the total approved mill levy, and then the next two columns show the temporary mill levy reductions that are required so that we comply with the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. Further on in the chart, you see the mill levy abatements, and that's what we're allowed to add back from prior year abatements. And that gives us our total net mill levy and the total property tax, which is $57 million for all county funds. So that's the budget and mill levy rates kind of in a nutshell. And does the board have any questions or further comments?
Francie.
So in the Healthy Community Fund for the consolidated fund balance summary, the looks like we're leaving quite a bit in the Healthy Community Fund for the beginning of 2026, and I'm wondering how that compares to what we've done other years with the Healthy Community Fund.
This is actually lower than what it has been some other years.
So we normally carry over like $500,000 or something like that, around that.
Yeah, or a little less, but I'd say this is lower than what it has been. They were actually planning on spending down in the budget $235,000 in fund balance, which is more than what they would normally do.
And why do we keep that balance?
Part of that balance is required by Tabor. So about 3% of total revenues is required by the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights to be kept in a reserve fund that we're not allowed to spend. And I don't have that number right off the top of my head. It was a bit over $100,000, $130,000 roughly.
I see.
So if you take what we're required to keep by Tabor, we really only have about 100,000 some on top of that, which isn't all that much.
And can we allocate that to any sort of emergency situation before we review next year's Healthy Community Fund application?
Yes, if it is within the parameters of the Healthy Community Fund ballot language.
Okay, great. So to Health and Human Services, we could allocate funds. Thank you.
Any other questions? No. All right, this is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing on the resolution concerning the adoption of the budget and appropriation of funds, $319 million appropriation for the fiscal year 2026. If anyone online wishes to comment, please raise your hand now. Okay, I will close the public comment on the budget and bring it back to the board for any further discussion or a motion.
I'll make a motion if nobody has comments.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution concerned with the adoption of the budget and appropriation of funds for fiscal 2026. And that one only, or? Yeah,
Just the
do that
first one?
first?
We do them separate, yep.
And these should be approved as amended.
As amended.
Were there amendments today from first reading?
Yes,
Yes.
both in the budget with adjustments to property tax and treasurer's fees and the open space and trails
new
position,
Oh, right.
and then the mill levies with the final certification values.
Got it.
I will second with one proviso, which is I'd love to have a debrief, probably with the full board and finance, and just say, what can we do better next year? What worked in 2024? What worked in 2025? What's the best of the two in terms of procedures? And then what works really well for staff? So both in terms of time and effort, and just, how do we improve the process? So that was a long-winded second.
I mean, I would say that this was a new process this year, and I appreciated it. So.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Connie.
Regarding a resolution levying general property taxes for the year 2025 to help defray the costs of government for Pickens County and its special districts.
Just waiting for a motion?
Sorry, I gotta open the public hearing.
Oh, sorry.
Let me open the public hearing on this. Okay, I don't see anyone wishing to comment on our mill levies. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. I just want to confirm, I had received correspondence over the weekend with some questions from one of our special district reps on the mill levies, and I just want to make sure that's all sorted or it doesn't affect this at all. Ann? Thanks.
I can just let you know those are numbers that are submitted to the treasurer and then on to the state, and the treasurer is just collecting those numbers at that point. This is our own
Okay,
mill
great.
levies, completely.
We're doing the
separate.
same thing.
We're doing the
just
same thing
that
that
they're
they're
doing.
also
Okay.
doing too. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Wanted to clarify that. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve?
There is.
Thanks, Francie. Is there a second?
There is.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Okay, may I please have a motion to adjourn the special meeting?
So moved.
Thanks, Francie.
Second.
Thanks, Jeffrey. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Would board members like a few-minute break? We have one scheduled.
I'm okay with that one, but
Jeffrey?
Either way.
All right, let's keep, well,
are we ready though?
I don't know if we're ready. Are we ready for
Well,
Picking
yes,
County
'cause
Vehicle Safety
Kevin's
Barrier Project?
Kevin's
Saw
here instead
everyone
of
here?
Jody, so.
If everyone's here, let's keep going. Let's roll.
We are, if you are.
Yeah.
And
Why don't we just
And
take a
if
quick
Rosa-
2-minute break,
There you go.
grassroots, to let these guys set up, please? Thank you. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners work session on Tuesday, December 9th. We are going to hear a presentation and have some discussion around a vehicle safety barrier project. And I will turn it over to our Assets Director, Kevin Warner. Nice
All right.
to see you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And I will introduce Patrick Raleigh from Raleigh Design Planning. I wanted to say it the other way.
It has a ring to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Raleigh Design Planning. And then we've got Brett Bergman from Risk Management with the county with us today. So thank you. And so, yeah, I'll run through a few slides here. Feel free to ask questions along the way, or we can wait till the end, whatever works best for you guys. So, okay, so just kind of outlining what we're going to be talking about today. First, we'll be talking about what the project's all about, why this project is important, a little bit of kind of pseudo history, where we've been over the last year or so with the project. Then I'm going to show you the design concepts that Patrick has produced, and then and that's really to get you into the mindset of like, okay, now Patrick's going to walk you through a little more detail in this, but while he's doing that, I want you to have these design concepts in mind, because really what we're looking for primarily today, while we're in this very conceptual stage, is which general direction do you want us to go? And then we can take that information, and Patrick and the rest of the team can work together to come up with something that's more fleshed out for you to come back to. So we'll have opportunity for questions, and then again, the intent, if it works for you guys today, is to really look for which one of these design concepts are you more preferring and would like to see more of, and then we'll move forward with that from there.
Can I ask a conceptual question before we start, Kelly?
Yes.
It's a given that we're doing this?
I-
It's mandated by something, or I've never heard about it before, so I'm just
Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, so well, if you don't mind, let me get into it, and we'll talk about that a little bit, because what I was about to say is pretty much what's the project about and why is it important, and then we can go from there, and we can get
I guess I
get
was
back to
asking,
that.
where did the decision to do it come from? That's kind of more my question.
And that's right where I'm headed, so
Okay.
if that's all right anyway.
That's fine.
Okay. So what's this project about? And so the project is really about protecting the entrances to county buildings from vehicles running into the buildings. And it's so you're really looking at physical safety for employees, physical safety for the public that are in the buildings, as well as protecting the county infrastructure that's there. And so if I go forward 2 more slides here, it'll tell you a little bit more about how we got here. So there's a working with Raleigh Design Planning, but it really came out of the Pickens County security team. So there's a team that looks at all different types of things, security. And so there's folks on that team from the assets group. I've not attended any of those because I'm still so new, but Jody has. We've got Brett from Risk Management. We have Alex from the Sheriff's Office. We have Jeff from the facilities crew. And did I miss anybody, Jeff?
We have Andrew Shoemaker
Brett,
from
Andrew
IT.
from IT as well. Yeah, sorry.
The librarian.
Oh, and yes. So we've got a group of folks from the county that are on a team, and so they looked at this as one project, as a larger grouping of different projects to move forward to enhance the security. There was also a portion of this that came up from the elections folks in. Hello, there we go. Because there's some issues with both physical security as well as visual security along the admin building right over on the corner as well. Right. So multiple different aspects coming from within county staff that have said, hey, this is something we'd like to take on. So does that help you, Francie, with kind of where it's coming from?
It does.
Okay, great. So I'll move back to what it's all about. So taking that information about the intent of this, which is to provide for public and infrastructure safety. There's a couple of places where you first go to look for this information. So Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, they recommend placing physical barriers in front of entrances and public gathering spaces. Then the American Society for Testing and Materials, they developed the standards for these types of things. And so in looking at both of those, this project will integrate both CISA recommendations as well as those ASTM standards. So why is this project important? So numerous instances over the last decades or more of vehicles striking civic public buildings, and some of them are intentional and some of them are accidental, but in either instance it's still causing harm to individuals and or to property. And so if you look up at the right hand corner of this, you got a pretty extreme example here from Texas from 2024 with a disgruntled individual who didn't pass their CDL licensing and decided to steal a truck and run it into the building. So, and then in the top left there, that's an example from 2023, just in Grand Junction, just down the road, of an instance where an individual ran their truck obviously into the police department building, right through and into the entryway there. And then finally in Avon, I think this was in 2018 or so, down there in the left-hand bottom corner, that was unintentional. Vehicle ran into that support structure, and both the second and third floors of that building had to be shut down for quite some time because of structural damage to that pillar there. So that's the why behind why this is coming forward. So a little bit of history. So one thing to note is that originally the project did also include the Health and Human Services building and the Ambulance District building, but after some additional research and looking at those two buildings, they have some structures that are already, while they may not have been intentionally designed for that, they're already providing for some of that. And so to reduce some costs and to rely on the places that already have some protection there, we're focusing just on the library as well as the admin and sheriff's office building here. So we've been working with Raleigh Design Planning as well as the security team, like I mentioned, and created this vision statement here. So enhancing safety and protect life and property with thoughtfully designed site-specific solutions that are minimally invasive and contribute to the community by incorporating elements of art, play, or functional design. And one note that I wanted to make sure everybody knows as well is that this has been brought forward in an earlier concept with the library trustees, but not at this stage of the concept yet. And so their monthly meeting is tomorrow. So we just wanted to make sure we're not intentionally trying to get ahead of one or the other, but the library trustees will be getting a similar presentation tomorrow for their look at it as well. So again, what we're really wanting to focus on here is trying to get your opinions on the couple of schematic concepts that we have. So if you look at the top here, there's what's called a nature schematic concept. And so trying to use the natural landscapes for inspiration. Patrick and his team captured features of the surrounding area and pulled them into design elements. So if you can see and you look at that, it really is focused on that area directly in front of the elections area inside. And it's got some planters for a little bit of visual barrier as well, which is important. But then it also has the physical barriers there, and they're more natural looking. And then the one on the lower portion of the screen there is a design history schematic. So really inspired by the Bohas movement and Herbert Bayer, this project kind of reimagines these bollards as both safety barriers, but also a public art, kind of installation at the same time. So you get a little bit less of that visual element with the in front of the admin building here, as far as some of the screening, but you get a different look and a different feel. So. Next, we have the same concept, so I won't repeat the concept, but in front of the library building, and then you've got the more natural scheme. You see some rocks in the front, some benches that are brought in that would be kind of more of a natural concept as well. Or you've got the lower visual there with the bringing the art into this in a different design concept. So
The green caterpillars.
the green caterpillar is it's a bookworm.
We had to have it.
It's a bookworm.
Bookworm, yes.
So again, we're going to move from here into having Patrick talk in more detail about how this works and what he's put into this. But again, I wanted you guys to be thinking about kind of these two concepts, because at the end of this, we really are going to be asking, like, which direction would you like us to go? So
Questions so far?
With only 3 of us here. That's kind of nerve-wracking.
Well, we can discuss that. That's okay.
So again, there's a few other different types where you can bring in other elements, and really we're not there at the level of like picking out things at this point. We're really just trying to look at the concepts and the basic ideas. So.
I have a question maybe before we dive further into design elements. Is there a insurance cost savings for reducing our risk profile? Right.
Yes and no. It depends on the location. We do have.
Red light on your microphone, please.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, there are some savings from an insurance standpoint. We have our underwriters for our property and liability come out and walk the property with us each year, and they point out best practices that we could be doing to reduce our risk. Whether we see those in an actual dollar decrease on our renewal, I doubt, but it does save us in the event that there is an incident like this.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll keep going then. And I will turn this over to Patrick, and you just let me know when you want me to keep going.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. You can probably move forward. For the record, Patrick Raleigh Design Planning. So yes, we were brought on board to take a look at various ways that we could accomplish these. There's the malicious and then there's the accidental, but you need to be prepared for all of it. So we looked at various, broad general approaches. So you can do sculptural elements, as you can see on the far left-hand side of that slide, more natural elements, geometric shapes that are masquerading as bollards, and then the natural. And then we kind of took some of these ideas, met with the safety team. We developed that very good mission statement and have taken that forward to say these are the two approaches that we want to look at, is the natural and the design. Next slide, please. So it's fairly simple. We did provide a report that was the best practices for protection. But the key concepts include the threat zone. As you can see, that's the vehicle or other object that would be coming towards the building. You have the standoff distance. That's like kind of creating this buffer zone between the threat and the structure that you're looking to protect. You have the keep out zone, which is almost immediately right around the entrance area. And all of this starts to kind of work together and coalesce into a concept of how you place these various structures or elements to protect various important areas. So among the other things to be considered are natural surveillance. When you're creating a space like this, you're bringing eyes to the street, and these will become naturally surveilled by the public, because they're going to be attractive areas for people to come and visit, or areas to generate some interest, and so that itself generates some protection. Natural access control is how you're funneling people through the site into various locations. Again, just kind of controlling. You're gaining control of these critical access points to the buildings. Territorial reinforcement refers to the idea of it's a notion of place. This becomes then a part of the community, something that signals that this is an important location for us and we want to protect it. Again, just heightening the awareness of the critical asset that we're trying to protect. And then obviously deterrence through design. You can do very abrupt, maybe Jersey barrier or something concrete, or you can look at various ways to mask the protection in a dual purpose of creating community interest and also community a place for them to enjoy. So next slide, please, Kevin. You can see some of these. We have done some images. This is the front door of the library, and then what I affectionately call the old children's entrance to the library. It's the ADA or emergency access to the north, farther down Mill. But you can see those concepts that I just discussed of the threat zone in the red, the green as the keep clear area and the protection, and we have just dropped some indication of elements that could be placed into the landscape that would provide protections from these various directions. And so what we're looking at is, coming down Mill Street in this particular instance, or coming down Bleecker Street. And again, we're not only just looking at the malicious intent, but we're thinking about people that are losing control as they make a corner or they overcook it. So we're looking at kind of the directions of travel and where the threat could be coming. Next slide, please. This is a slide, a diagram of the administration building. We see two areas, east and west on Main Street, are the primary points of protection. And again, those same concepts repeated around the front door. And this had an additional layer of trying to create that visual barrier into the elections office. Next slide, please.
Can I go back real quick? Sorry.
Yeah.
Why not the area on the second floor entrance to the library? Are there already?
The second floor of the library, so over by the Dunaway room, yes.
Yeah, like where the city.
That has already has some sculptural elements. There are some bollards up there, and there's some other features that kind of protect that entrance as it is right now. So we did take a look at that. We've done site walks and kind of said, okay, this is the triage of where we most importantly need to put some features in.
Okay, thank you.
A follow-up for that?
Yes.
So aligned with that idea is, why don't we do this with the city and do their building at the same time so that we're not having discordant designs?
I think we have spoken to the city planning. We have pre-apps for a land use application that would be required. We'd be happy to discuss with them about collaboration. We haven't had that discussion at this point.
Okay, thanks.
I think you can go to the next slide.
Too.
Right. So this is some of the feedback that we got. Again, we're looking for additional feedback, but this is some of the feedback that we received from the safety team about the admin. Subtle is best due to the nature of the building and existing site features. There was some sensitivity of color and what are we trying to convey when you have an administration building. So we're sensitive to that. The idea of fewer people, we want less stickiness in front of the admin building. It's a sidewalk. We want to maintain ADA accessibility. We want to maintain the clear path on the sidewalk. So maybe providing something that will cause people to stay less time is preferable. One of the key considerations that was brought up was these have to be movable, not easily movable, but something that can be moved for snow storage or for regular maintenance and things like that. So we've taken into account how can that occur. And then, as I said, don't restrict the width of the sidewalk. And you can see the image on the left is the Bauhaus. Those are kind of medallions or something that kind of are playful. They maybe have an element of movement. That would be a bollard with some type of feature over the top of them to to mask the bollard. Then the image on the right is the natural approach. Again, you can see those pebbles, as we call them. Those are, very heavy, and they're designed purposefully to, prevent a car or any object to go over them. And then you can plant those, have planted elements, planted features that would create that standoff distance, protect the visual elements into the election windows, but also providing for that vehicle protection.
Question, Kelly?
Please.
So the ones that you call pebbles, those are concrete, rather than rocks?
They can be stone. We've looked at various options. They can be stone, they can be concrete. Of course, pricing is always a matter, but I think, personally the preference would be a natural element, but they can also be prefabricated in concrete.
Great. Thanks.
Lots of options out there. Next slide, please. Then this was, again, those images, the feedback that we got, they liked the dynamic nature of the sculptures. The library has more of a community, family, children element to it, so maybe a little bit more whimsy could be appropriate in this location. Francie, I'm glad you brought up the bookworm. It was somebody said, "Where's the bookworm?" So we felt compelled that we have to put it in there. But it really matches. And maybe the bookworm or the caterpillar is a natural element. I think that's a good segue to say that this is a kit of parts. We can mix and match and play with various things to create some greater interest. Again, it's the outward look of them is kind of fungible, and the protection can be very definite with what we want to do. Maintenance, we had some concepts about how do we weed whack around these, and what do we do if somebody spray paints them with graffiti or something like that. So we are conscious of that, creating a control strip, choosing materials that can be easily cleaned, that sort of thing. The color palette within the library was something that we considered. So those colors that you see are actually colors that you see on the interior. So we wanted to kind of marry interior to exterior space. And we did meet with the library board back in May and got some feedback. Took an informal straw poll. It'll be interesting to see what they say tomorrow. They liked the natural approach a little bit better if they had to choose something. Next slide, please, Larry. So I alluded to the land use process that is going to be required by the city. We have spoken with Ben Anderson, and I actually have received pre-application conference summaries that would form the basis of a land use application. But this would be reviewed administratively, and the community development director would be the decision maker. That's a quote that Ben has provided. We have very little concern about the review, but it will likely put some conditions on the features related to height and right-of-way encroachment. So this will go through a vetting by the city to make sure that everything is kosher and appropriate for this public space. And then, as Kevin alluded to, the Health and Human Services campus was paused. There are some features in the front that do protect those the front doors to a certain degree. And actually, we have some preliminary designs. Again, we looked at it. I think we can build on what is out there fairly readily with some new features to just bolster the protections that are out there right now. Then the next slide, I think that's. Yep, so that's about it. Happy to answer any questions. And glad to hear some questions.
Good time for additional questions, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
So I'm a little concerned that if we just take the library, for example, that there is existing typology as you walk around the building that at best would be called chef's breakfast, right? It's a potpourri of everything. So there are Jersey barriers, there's cones, there's sculptures. So it seems to me part of civil and civic buildings should be engaging people and dissuading vehicles from entering those spaces. So the first observation from the plan is we seem like we're dissuading people as opposed to cars, because we've moved most of the barriers and the protection within the landscape. And so one is sort of the typology question of, like, do we really need 7 different forms of barriers around the library building? I mean, and I fail to see in either the natural or the modernism approach, how it relates to the architecture. So, you know, and so even this building, the landscape that protects the building and the people relates to the architecture. So even Veterans Park pays homage to the stone and the sort of longevity of it. So I appreciate the whimsy, but I think we already have whimsy in this sort of mix match of typology. I am concerned about accessibility, and so showing slides with bollards in the middle of walkways, you know, feels a lot like Brush Creek Park and Ride, which I take offense to every morning where I see 2 bollards on the ADA ramp. And so accessibility, I understand the vulnerabilities, but how do we balance that with, it's a civic building and we really need the library to be open and accessible. I also would like to know from a first responder standpoint how we could pull an apparatus up to a building and still either a tender or other truck actually fight a fire in a 3-story building. So there's got to be a temporal nature to the intervention so that we're not a threat, we're the first responder, and we can remove the rock, the circle, the square. And I think in the mission it's missing people. I still think these are civic places and parks, and I'd love to see how the admin building and the library could be more engaging places for people so that, I don't know, I'd go climb the bookworm, that's cool. So I'm definitely, I'm voting bookworm.
I do think, Jeffrey, the one
Yeah.
note is that for the, and I think you and I mentioned this already, but for the admin building, we're intentionally trying to deter people from spending time right in that area. So that would look a little bit different, as Patrick noted, but then the library has a different feel and a different intent. So.
And you know, what we've looked at, and it's a complete open page. I mean, these are ideas that we're throwing out there, and concern, you know, in connection with bringing people into it. One of the things that we could do is a seat that is heavy enough, you know, invite a bench. And that was one feedback that we got from the library is we want people to be able to still use the Wi-Fi access in the front. So, you know, there's lots of various options that we can explore and to you know, continue to unpack this to find the right solution. But these are just very general approaches at this point.
I think Francie was next, and then
Unless
Jeffrey,
you
we can
wanna
go back to
respond
you.
to what Patrick just said.
I would, if that's okay.
It's fine.
I mean, if you think about social civic spaces, you think about Gaudi, you think about benches, you could still have a place that a vehicle is not going to attack, yet people get to enjoy. And so socio-pedal spaces where we bring people together is still a good thing. And you can still protect the clerk's office because the back of the bench is protecting you from the vehicle. Ingrid may disagree.
We also, it was an interesting comment that the library board had. It was, we don't want to attract people into the front of the building. So we have that a bit of a push and pull of feedback and stuff. But I very much more align with what you're saying is that these are public spaces and that we do want them to be enjoyed and occupied. And that's part of what I was going through is the eyes on the street. As you're bringing people into these areas, you're heightening them from a visual standpoint and making them a little bit more a part of the fabric of the community. So that's a goal, certainly.
Francie?
I don't have specific questions. I have some comments. I do agree about having something that recognizes the architecture of the library and the administration building. And I think I'm not in favor of the whimsy so much because it looks like a playground. And I think we can do better than a playground. And I love the way people linger outside the county administration building, and I'm wondering why we're trying to discourage that. It's really, there's almost always people in that walkway talking to each other, and I really like that. I mean, especially when we have people come in from Down Valley or wherever, and this is their 2 hours in Aspen, and they linger there and talk to people. I love that. So I'd like to have something that encourages that, but still protects the elections office from peeping toms, so to speak. So I really like the natural approach. I like rocks and planters and small trees and that kind of stuff. I mean, I think that fits into Aspen better than bright colored. No offense to Bauhaus, but that's the way I would go. But there's only 3 of us here, so we have to think about how we get input from Patty and Greg. But I really, really like the idea of making the entrance here more attractive. It's very industrial the way it is. It's not at all inviting, the county building. The library is way more inviting, but I just find this very cold and industrial, our entrance to the county building. So I love the idea of having something more out there. I've been talking about the little gardens out there for 5 years. They're better now. But anyway, I think that's my comments for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to talk a little bit about your intent over here in that little corner?
Well, obviously protecting our office. Do I?
Please.
Come up. Yeah.
And we are going to need to wrap this up.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the next
I
steps
also, I agree with you, Francie. And way it was presented to me, those big stone rocks could be someplace for people to sit, but it keeps them away from the building. And so I don't know that it necessarily discourages. But yeah, we have had faces in their backpacks stashed right by the clerk's window, which in the environment in the country is not a good idea. So the other thing is I think you all know that in Archuleta County this summer, someone threw an incendiary device into the clerk's office. I also am concerned, I can't tell exactly what the designs have for that window well, but we want to make sure that's protected from somebody throwing an incendiary device in there, as well as the windows there into our office. We had a guy locking his bike, face staring in with a meeting with the whole elections team and Rye one day, and it was like, what's going on here? So, yeah, that's...
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I think that's, yeah.
And one fun little thing that you can do with the plants is you can make spiky plants or things that are, they look beautiful, but once you get close to them, they push people off. So that's something that we had thought about too.
Great.
So.
Thanks. That's all.
Thanks, Ingrid.
Thanks.
Okay, I think you're going to get 5 opinions on this, which is not helpful to you. And so I'm trying
and I were sort of aligned.
to figure out how to be helpful. I like the whimsy. I frankly think Aspen's entirely too sanitized for most normal populations of cities, and it would be nice to see a little bit more of the weird Aspen that, I think the city tries to celebrate in their design aesthetic more than the county does. So with that, my inclination is to let the library board decide what they think would be the best design for the front of the library and to take their advice on that. This building's a little bit different. I love Bauhaus. I wish it was integrated and more design in our community, but, I think that aesthetically the planters and everything look more aligned with the nature of this building, and it also helps us sort of avoid conversations about allowances for public art, which we don't have a policy for and have had requests for in the past and have, don't have a great way to respond to that. And so something that looks like Bauhaus might be interpreted as an installation of public art that we're not maybe looking to invite. So those are my feedbacks on this. I regret, Patty and Greg have good reasons to not be here today. I regret they probably will also have opinions on this. And so what I fear is we give you direction and then you come back and we have a different conversation. And so I guess that maybe is a little bit of a concern, John, that going to flag for you as the last concern, perhaps for guidance. because we don't want, I would hate for staff to get too far down the line, and then we, as a board, have a harder conversation when we have a full board, so.
Well, there may be a couple of options. We could certainly socialize this with Greg and Patty and see if there is a divergence in opinion from what the board may want to give direction on today, in which case we'd probably need to bring it back. If not, then I think it's something that we could probably bring back in a quick open discussion and say we've had these discussions and there seems to be alignment to move forward. So it may be worth seeing if there's alignment amongst you. If not, then we may need to bring it back with all five.
I mean, I think we have alignment on this building at the very least. And, you know, I can request that they review this presentation online and maybe flag something for us in the next week. If that works.
Are these visuals nearby? The poster boards?
Well, I can provide any visuals that you would like.
Okay.
We have other information. There's additional materials to review. So.
Yeah, I was just thinking if we could get Patty and Greg to.
And
Yeah.
you're happy. Yeah, and you're happy to keep these.
I could
Okay.
hang on to these and
Great.
I would just maybe put a big sticker on there that says proposed.
Conceptual.
Conceptual, yes.
Good idea.
To avoid any assumptions of like, what? Who decided
They're
this?
currently known as schematic concepts.
Yes, okay. Well, okay, that'd be great if we can keep those. I'll follow up with board to draw attention to this, and then hopefully the discussion we've had here provides you with some input on moving forward. That's okay.
You know, just one last comment. You know, the mall in Boulder, I mean, I haven't been there in years, but the way it used to be, they have really fun, big, made out of mostly natural material sculptures, you know, snails and turtles and things like that, that might be appropriate at the library without being bright green and pink and stuff. I mean, if everybody wants to go with bright, fine, but I'm just saying, I think that's a good example, some of the sculptures that they have on the Boulder Mall.
Yep, I think the Pearl Street is a wonderful example, and we do have lots of different materials that we have looked into and explored and stuff. So this is, you know, very preliminary, very kind of scratching the surface, but yes, I think that's a great feedback, and I love the Pearl Street, and it's a great public space.
Yeah,
All right, great, thanks.
I think, you know, Grand Junction has a bunch too.
Grand Junction is wonderful
Great.
too, and that's
Yeah.
where it goes maybe a little bit more whimsy, and that's a great opportunity to see how that works, contrasted against a Victorian or, you know, standard city building. So.
Okay. I hope this helps.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think we have direction to move forward further in design, which is a good
No, I
takeaway from today.
very much here. Thank you very much for the feedback. This is helpful.
I think
Great.
what I heard was that for this building, the natural concept seems to align better with the building and will ensure that it aligns with ADA and all the other things.
Look at the architecture.
And we'll look at the architecture of the building itself and try to integrate that. For the library, I've heard at least from both Francie and Kelly that it seems like maybe we kind of let them make the library trustees weigh in and make that decision. But very much heard Jeffrey noting that wanted to protect the public spaces within that area to continue to allow them to be utilized for public gathering spaces and that outside of the library. So I think that brings a lot of it together. Does that kind of
Great.
capture most of it?
I'm seeing head nods, so.
And then we'll.
Sure,
And then
are you agreeable to that? You don't seem like you are. Speak up, young man.
I'd love to see what you come back with. I think we should be embracing life between buildings. And we have one of the few park spaces, like in front of the library. It's a different typology, it's a different use. And it's not the arrogant architecture you get in downtown Denver that says, don't sit here or sleep here. And I realize there's a balance, but you're a designer, figure it out.
And Patrick and I have both heard that. So
Yeah.
we're.
I have one more
And
question,
I am
actually.
concerned about that sort of I know you're focusing on the one entry, but really that alley is one continuous procession with Jersey barriers and outmoded sculptures with, you know, horsemen and stuff. And so,
Yeah, you don't like the Don Quixote chrome on the range or whatever it's called. Yeah.
I don't know, kids love that once they learn it's like made of car.
Yeah, it's an old car.
I have one more
Understood.
question, and that is the jail building. That doesn't need protection?
It was not part of our study.
Always.
The jail is protected in the back, the front. The courthouse is also protected. You can see the steps.
Yeah.
Just the natural design or the historic design of the building protects that. So I believe the jail and the courthouse is protected.
I mean, for intentional malicious act, I would think the jail would be a likely target.
Yeah.
Especially coming up that alley and roaring forward into the jail.
Of course,
Not that I can imagine anybody doing that, but
You have to be there,
happens.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I will take my easels, though.
Okay, I just clicked out of it.
All right, do you all need a few minutes, do you need a minute to set up?
We can do it pretty quick, but if you want a break, we can occupy ourselves. I can talk while you set up.
A lot of big topics today. It's not trivia,
no, not a good day to miss.
not a good day to miss, exactly.
No, they rarely are.
Sure.
Yeah. There's a lot in the packet, though, for them to look at.
Okay, if you all are ready, we can move on to our discussion of a housing needs assessment update. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Ashley Pearl, Resiliency and Housing Director for Picken County, and I'm joined by Liz Axberg from the City of Aspen and Rachel, I'm going to butcher your last name, from EPS, so I'll let her introduce herself when we get there. This is the first time that the board has had an update on the regional housing needs assessment that the city, thankfully, has been spearheading and that EPS has been working on. So Rachel will kind of present today what is called phase 1 of the regional housing needs assessment. It's 2 phases because the housing needs assessment is being responsive to 2 things. One of them being state legislation or state statute that requires the vast majority of municipalities and counties to have a housing needs assessment. Picken County is exempt from that, but Snowmass and Aspen are not. And then the second is the opportunity for us or to regionally or separately put in a Proposition 123 AMI waiver, which would allow us to access Proposition 123 money and use it on AMIs or incomes that are higher than what it currently allows, which is also a great opportunity to tell a housing narrative and share a housing narrative with the state. So because the housing needs assessment is responsive to both of these things, and of course both of these things have slightly different requirements on how they're done, Rachel and team at EPS decided to split it into 2 phases. So phase 1 is to be compliant with Prop 123, and we prioritize that because the folks at the city and town of Snowmass Village are both really trying to really get in a Prop 123 AMI waiver as quickly as possible, and we wanted to support them in doing that. So phase 1 is responsive to Prop 123 AMI waiver. Phase 2 is responsive to state legislation or statute. And the key thing to know is that the data in phase 1 stays all the way through phase 2. We don't change the data. They just expound and further analyze in phase 2. So data you'll see today is the data that will eventually be in the full housing needs assessment. I'm really excited as housing staff for county to have this, although we wouldn't have gone out and contracted for a housing needs assessment at Picken County right now because we have the comp plan and just a couple other things going on. Having this data as we move into the first years of our housing property tax is incredible. It really helps us understand where the need is and kind of some more of those discrete needs. And it's always great to work as a region. If we had said, no, we're not participating in the region, we'd come out with some Picken County standalone housing needs assessment in 2 years, while the city and Snowmass have one from 2025. And, that never is all that helpful. It's always better to go with the region. So I'm really excited that the city's been able to pull in not just Picken County municipalities, but all the way down into Garfield County. So kudos to you, Liz, for getting everybody to participate. I think the data will show a really great regional picture that will help us move forward. Just a couple more kind of things to keep in mind. The data that EPS used is the same data that we used in our comp plan. So you'll see a lot of the same stuff packaged slightly differently today. And as far as a perspective from community development, Hannah Hunt was not able to be here today, but she wanted to say that she sees this as really poising us for the next steps to take on some of these code updates and a housing action plan and some of these things that will come in the next couple of years in the housing land use world, because we'll have really solid data to kind of move forward on that. And I think those are all kind of my housekeeping items. Any questions from me as staff before I really turn it over to Rachel to get into the nuts and bolts?
Gaps. Anyone did not play, municipalities or counties that we wished had? Can we shame them up front?
Everyone who we reached out to has joined, and so we have pretty much every community within Picken and Garfield County. And so the 3 funders of the study are Picken County, Town of Snowmass Village, and Aspen. And then all the Garfield communities are contributed more in just supplying data and working with us. And the main reason for that being since Snowmass and Aspen are the 2 submitting the petition, and also just helping to encourage collaboration with them as well.
So I can't shame Eagle then and Roaring Fork side of Eagle and not participating?
Yeah, so we do have some data in there from the Eagle part of Basalt, but Eagle County just completed their own very large, that actually Rachel did, Eagle County housing needs assessment. And so with this one, we were really just trying to capture the main commuter corridor, even though we do acknowledge there's folks who commute from Eagle County and that side as well.
Thank you.
Has anyone successfully got an AMI waiver yet?
Yes. Yes. Summit County did. I'm trying to remember. I think there's one more. I know Lake County had theirs in process. It's been a challenge, but luckily some trailblazers have come before and kind of found some of the hurdles. And we've been in conversation with DOLA staff throughout this process to update them as we're going and get their feedback throughout. So hopefully there will be no surprises at the end. But yeah, I know.
3 approved.
Oh,
You got
3.
Frisco and Summit County and Lake County have been approved.
Great. How did it go last night? You guys presented to Aspen and Snowmass?
Really well. There were really good questions. Got a lot of things to help us sort of refine how we present the data. I don't think there were any surprises, which is not surprising to us. I don't think you'll see any surprises in this, but just to Ashley's points, to help us understand what's going on and how things are changing, and then help frame up the conversation moving forward.
Okay. Well, if we don't ask any of those great questions, feel free to pepper them in.
Yeah, do you want to share slides and take it away? Do you want questions as you go, or do you want to wait till the end?
Whatever works. We can do. We did them sort of as we went last night, and I think it worked pretty well. And then I will also say we have kind of condensed the data summary slides into just some of the key findings. And then if there are any specific questions, we do have all the specific data slides at the end that we can flip to if needed. So some of this will be a little bit of a repeat from the introduction. But again, here's the list so you can see that there's nobody to shame.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so even Basalt had actually just recently completed their own housing needs assessment and is still participating in this as a stakeholder to make sure that they're a part of the overall region. And then again, just to reiterate, the purpose is, there's multiple purposes. I think the first one that isn't really on here is just that it was time for an update anyway. The last needs assessment was done in around 2018, and so they just need to be updated and looked at again. And so while now the state does require them and set out a specific methodology, it's pretty much the same as what we would have done anyway. They actually got a sort of consortium of housing consultants to put together the methodology, and EPS was a participant in that. So we were able to shape it a little bit to make sure that the requirements still fell in line with how these studies are typically done. We did have to mold it to what is required in the statute, and so we'll see a couple pieces of those throughout. But in general, it's the way we would have done a housing needs assessment anyway. And then, as noted, supporting the applications for Prop 123, and then to Liz's point again, just building that regional collaboration. And as we'll see throughout, it's really hard to understand housing needs in Pickens County without thinking about Garfield County as well, and thinking about sort of the broader commute shed and economic base. You'll hear this a couple times. What this is not is a mandate to build any number of housing units. It's not a mandate to put housing in any one place. It's really, again, just to help us understand the magnitude of need and what is driving those needs, and then to help inform future conversations. This document does not need to be adopted or approved at all. It's just data and informational. And so this is, on the left side is the overview of phase 1 of this effort. So it's really all of the baseline data. And this gives us the core needs assessment that can be submitted as part of the Prop 123 application. And then the pieces on the right are the other components through Senate Bill 174 that we'll be adding after that, again, just provide some of that additional context. So within housing problems, that's things like cost burden, homelessness, overcrowding temporary housing, resources, or just what tools are already available and being used to really help set the stage of where there's opportunity to do more or do differently. And then the housing development challenges, that's actually something that's also being woven into the Proposition 123 component, to Ashley's point, to help communicate to the state how housing challenges in this region might differ from other communities across the state, not the least of which is just development costs. And so at the end, we will have a full document to be submitted to DOLA for all the communities to be in compliance with Senate Bill 174. And so we're going to do a very quick overview of trends and then go through the housing needs calculations just to make sure that everyone understands where the numbers are coming from, go through any questions on those, because, again, this data holds constant through phase 2. So first is the demographic trends. Again, I'd be curious if anything on these slides is surprising. There's some pieces that were surprising to us going through, just little bits. But one piece is that the population in Pickens County has generally been stable over the last 10, 15 years and is projected to remain that way, while we're seeing most of the growth in the region happening in Garfield County. And as we'll see in a bit, that's true of jobs as well. That said, I haven't gotten into it with the State Demography Office on the nitty-gritty of their forecast methodology, but a lot of it is based on current conditions. And so it's not to say that the population has to remain stable, or has to, the current trends have to continue. We're seeing aging populations, we're seeing families with children moving into Garfield County and down the Colorado River Valley. It's not to say that that has to be the case, but based on current conditions, that is expected to continue. And so to that point, the population in both counties is aging, and this is not unique to this area. It's something we're seeing across the country, really across a lot of the Western world. What's interesting, though, is that in the detailed slides, we have a chart of population by age, and there's this really interesting increase in the population under age 25 as you go down Valley and then west along I-70. And it's incredibly noticeable. And that's one of those things that in my line of work makes us go, huh. And then we sort of dig into that a little bit more. And so that's a very clear trend that's emerging. And also larger households, which, there's more accessible, diverse housing inventory there. So it makes sense if you want to have a larger household, you can have more house in that region. In terms of economic trends, Garfield County has about 1.5 times as many jobs as Pickens, which is not necessarily surprising. There's more people that live there. What is interesting, which we'll see on another slide, is it has about twice as many housing units. And so
Twice as many what?
Housing units. So more housing units, a bigger differential in housing units than jobs, which to us says that Garfield County is housing Pickens County employees, which again, not really shocking, but it's nice to see things that we kind of know to be true to be reflected in the data. Jobs in Garfield County are also projected to grow faster than in Pickens County, but at the same time, Pickens is still a really strong economic driver of the region, and so people are still coming here for those jobs. Wages across a lot of industries and occupations are higher in Pickens County than in Garfield County, and at the same time, for some of those core employment sectors, wages are still pretty low. And so when we look at where most of the jobs are in Pickens County, in our sort of accommodations, food services, recreation, retail, wages in those occupations are still low. And when we look at that and we look at household incomes and we start to paint the picture of what's happening, we can see that people are working multiple jobs or have, 4 people earning wages in their households to make it work. And then, again, just the commuting piece, almost 2/3 of the workforce in Pickens County is commuting in from outside the county, which is a large number, but also not entirely surprising given the geography of the region. And so, we see these numbers in different communities and they tell us different things. So for example, like Liz said, we did work in Eagle County, and commuting into Eagle County is very different. If you're commuting from anywhere outside the county, you're commuting through a canyon or over a mountain pass. Whereas here, you can, live in Carbondale and work in Basalt, and that's a cross-county commute, which is a much easier commute than, living in Parachute and working in Glenwood Springs, which is technically living and working in the same county. So we take that context into these numbers. In terms of housing, again, I don't think this will be surprising. A little over 40% of housing units across the county are vacant. Generally speaking, we don't think those are vacant waiting to be rented or sold. They are what we're calling non-primary homes, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, what have you, homes that are not available to be lived in full time. In Garfield County, that number is about 8%, and there we would much more expect those to be just waiting to be rented or sold. And then again, just noting that there are almost 2 times as many housing units in Garfield County than Pickens. But it's not all doom and gloom news. There are almost 4,500 units of affordable housing across the county, across the region, and over 90% of those are in the county. So there's over 4,000 units of affordable housing in the county, and 65% of those are in the city of Aspen. And so there's a lot of work that has been done, and a lot of what we're looking to do is just build on that and help understand what's been done and where there are still gaps. A lot of the gaps are in the for sale housing market. So there's nowhere across the region where you can get a single family home for a median price of under $1.5 million. So again, that's where any community where half of the homes sold are sold for over $1.5 million, and same with townhomes is $1.25 million. Condos are slightly better. There are a couple communities where the median price is under $1 million, but it's becoming increasingly rare. Again, in the full slide deck, we have the median prices by type over time by community, and you can see just the significant rate of increase, particularly since 2020. Some communities seeing 20% annual growth in median sale prices.
Woody Creek.
Yeah.
Was that?
Yeah.
Is that one house that did that?
No, so we actually got rid of any communities where there were, I think, fewer than 3 sales, because then the median is just the middle of those 3. So I think, and I can double check it, I think it's a minimum of like 4 or 5 sales that to lead to that number. But it's one of those things shocking but not surprising in a way. It's definitely a trend that we've seen across our work. One interesting thing in that is that within the city of Aspen, the rate of increase has actually been smaller. Part of that we think is just because prices were already so high. So that's something we saw in Vail as well, where the prices just hadn't increased at the same rate as the rest of the Eagle River Valley, but they were so high to begin with that they're still the highest in the region, but they only went up at 7% a year, not 15%. And that gets us to the affordability question. And so if we look at a 2-person household earning the median income, so again, that's half of 2-person households earn more, half earn less. That's a little over $100,000. That's all wage earners, all jobs. And that's actually surprisingly consistent with a number of other communities. So Eagle County, Steamboat, it's all about $100,000, which is just one of those little things that makes us go interesting. That I will say does not only include people working locally. If somebody lives here, works remotely, fills out their census here, that includes that wage as well. To afford the median priced for sale home in Down Valley community, so that is moving out of the county, you still need to earn at least 200% AMI. So that's about $200,000. Earning $300,000 still doesn't get you a home in the Mid or Upper Valley. And even at 400% AMI, you had to earn that or more in 2024 to afford 80% of the home sales in the Upper Valley, almost half in the Mid Valley. And so home ownership is just becoming increasingly out of reach. And what that means is that we either see people leaving the region, which we're seeing, or we see increased pressure on the rental market because all those people who would have purchased a home are now in the rental market with everyone else looking to rent. And when, you earn $200,000 and can't afford a home, you can afford a lot more in rent than someone earning $80,000. And so it just puts increased pressure, particularly on lower wage renters. And so how do we bring this all together? The overall purpose of the needs assessment, in addition to helping us understand trends and current conditions, is quantifying housing needs. And so again, this is not a development goal necessarily. This isn't, we must build this many units. It's helping us understand the magnitude of unmet need, and then as we'll look into what type of tenure, so ownership or rental, and income levels we expect that need to be at to help then frame different policy and strategy conversations. So we break down the need into two components. So there's what we're calling the catch-up need, which is existing demand based on current conditions today. What are the unmet housing needs across the county? And then the keep-up need is moving forward over the next 10 years, and this is based on job growth. What do we expect future unmet need to be? And so again, important to keep in mind that first of all, almost no community addresses 100% of the need unless your need is like 5 units. And if your need is 5 units, then even doing that is probably a challenge. But it's really just to help us understand what is driving the need, and then help think about what that means for potential policies and strategies. So overall, this is county-wide, including all the jurisdictions, and then so we'll see it broken out into jurisdictions in the unincorporated county after. So it's a total need of just over 2,800 housing units over the next 10 years, really concentrated in Category 2 and Category 3. And so we can see that existing shortage in blue, projected need in gold or yellow, depending on your color perception. And you'll notice that there's no projected need in Category 1, and that is because projected need is based on employment, and with where wages are in the county, if you're earning a wage, you don't qualify in Category 1. And so for the current need, that is distributed based on the current income distribution, and so we have need in that category, but using employment to project future need, it doesn't fall into that category.
And it shows up in our homelessness strategic plan and data that the consulting firm SHG is working on for us. So these kind of meet in the middle at that Category 1.
They're, sorry, to clarify that, they're coming to the same finding.
They're coming to the same finding, and they are filling in that data gap to really understand that need in Category 1.
And we actually had a really productive conversation with SHG folks through this process to make sure that those studies were talking to each other.
Francie.
Yeah. Couple of questions. So there is a need in Category 1. It's like 300 houses. I mean, there's not any in the future, correct?
Right. Well, yeah, I would frame it as based on the parameters of the calculations of future housing need. We wouldn't expect growth in that category because I think anyone living in a community would say, well, yeah, 5 years from now, there will probably be someone who, falls into that category. But yeah, based on the analysis and essentially saying for people employed in the region, they are not driving the demand in Category 1.
Yeah. So what does this number mean of needed units? Does that mean there are people who have already applied to live in this kind of unit and they're waiting? Is it a projection of how many people are going to move here? What exactly is this number? Where does it come from?
Great question. Let me go back slide. So the current need is based on those 3 bullet points. And so we're looking at current overcrowded housing units and temporary housing units and saying in order to eliminate those, to provide housing for people currently living in overcrowded conditions, currently homeless, currently couch living. So that's one part of it. Mm-hmm. The second is reducing long distance commuting. And so we looked at what portion of commuters are commuting over 25 or 50 miles each way and taking a portion of that. So not saying that everybody doing that would up and move into the county if given the opportunity, because we know that's not the case, but looking at a portion of that and then looking at unfilled jobs. And so generally in economies like this, a high number of unfilled jobs is related to a lack of housing availability. And if we talk to employers, we hear that a lot. And so it's those 3 components are driving that catch-up need.
Thank you for that. I asked that to a presentation we had a little while ago. Remember that? And he did not give an answer specific like that. I appreciate that.
I love when people let me dive into the data and analysis, so I appreciate it.
I think that's the blue that we see
Yeah.
in the next graph,
Yeah.
right? And then the gold is the projected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that one, just the 2 components of that, one, it's looking at 10-year employment growth, so that's based on the State Demography Office projections, and then we look at that by occupation and wages. And then the second part is looking at the number of employees we expect to retire over the next 10 years, and assuming that a portion of those people are going to stay living in the region. And so while they open up a job, they keep their housing unit. And so it's not considered job growth because that job currently exists today, but we need someone new to fill it. And the person who left that job has not left their housing unit. And so it's not 100% because some people will leave and open up a housing unit, but accounting for that, we think is particularly important given the percentage of the labor force that's over the age of 50. It's an important component to keep in mind.
And one more question, if that's okay. And so this doesn't include the lumberyard filling some of these gaps?
So that's a great point. It does. So these numbers do not account for that yet. So this is what we call the gross need. So this is just those calculations. And so when we look at this countywide, we're looking at about 60% of the total need is to catch up for current conditions, and then 40% is for that future growth. One of the things we find interesting about this is when we look at the regional split for the catch-up and the keep-up. For the catch-up, it's about 50-50 in terms of total units between Pitkin and Garfield. For future need, over 70% of that need is expected to be in Garfield County. And so that to us is a very big shift in where housing demand is going. And that's part of why it's so critical to get all of the regional partners in on this effort to be able to tell that cohesive story.
Because it does look like the lumberyard would fulfill somewhere around the category 3 and 4 total population, total needs right now.
So it would be...
Especially if we're just considering Pitkin.
Yeah, so we take those total numbers and then we subtract out all of these developments. And so the 277 units of the lumberyard are subtracted out because that development is happening in Aspen. They're taken out of Aspen's numbers. So what we do with that total number, those 2,800 units, they're distributed to communities into the county based on percentage of jobs. So, and that's something that was in the state statute. So Aspen has, I want to say 52% of the jobs in the county. So 52% of that housing need goes to Aspen. I think the unincorporated county has, I want to say 18% of jobs. So 18% of that 2,800 goes to the unincorporated county. And then we subtract out all of these developments and we say, these are already in process. These will be meeting some of that need.
Great.
And then we get to this. So this is what we call the net need. So this is all of those calculations, taking out all of those projects in process. And so what that does is it takes us down to about 2,500 units. So we've taken out a little over 300 units out of the need, and that's primarily driven by the lumberyard. And so then we can see the distribution across communities here. So 49% of that need is Aspen's, given the share of jobs minus those pipeline units. We have 20% of the need in Snowmass Village, 12% in Basalt, 19% in the unincorporated county. So for the unincorporated county, it's just over 500 units over 10 years. And again, that's just helping us to understand what we expect the magnitude of that need to be. This study is not saying, Pickens County, you have to build 493 units over the next 10 years or else. It's helping us understand. And then...
but we have said we'd like to build 250 over 25 years.
Yeah.
Or help build.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, is that it's also not just building. This is just a need for units. So whether it is, it can be done through rental assistance, through buy downs. If we can get a home that wasn't locally occupied and make it locally occupied, all it is increasing the availability of affordable housing in whatever ways make the most sense. And so this is just a lot of numbers, but it's those 493 units broken down into owner and renter by income level. I will say this, I have not yet figured out how to tell the future. So this is not set in stone. If we come back 5 or 10 years from now and we say, well, there's actually a need for, 70 category 2 units, I'll say, yep, that doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of assumptions that go into this, and those will all be laid out in the report. But again, it's helping us understand what those drivers of need are, and then really just helping us understand where to prioritize resources. And so one thing that we know in this region is that it is really hard to fill low-income affordable units. And so we're not recommending this, even though there is a need in that category 1 being shown. You're not going to see a recommendation to build a LIHTC project, because we know that those are just so hard to make work in this region. We might recommend rental assistance or other programs, but everything coming out of this is going to be sort of right-sized for the communities and the resources and the local conditions, especially given what we know development costs to be. We're probably going to be looking at a lot of non-development options as well, because if we have one pool of funds, what's the best bang for our buck? How can we make that money go further?
What is your position again?
I am a vice president with Economic and Planning Systems.
Okay.
It's a phrase that means a lot of different things at a lot of different places, but I'm a urban economics, land economics consultant. And we have done these studies across the state and then another, across the country as well, but similar communities. For better or for worse, this region is at the cutting edge of housing affordability challenges. And so when folks ask, well, who do we look to? I say, well, people look to you. So I don't know where else. But no, there's a lot of creativity happening. There's a lot of options as we move into phase 2 to add that context into what do these numbers really look like on the ground, and then start having conversations about strategies and next steps to understanding what the resources are. One of the questions that came up yesterday was where things like water are accounted for, and that is something that the state actually put into the guidance for housing needs assessments now to account for water. And so I was saying there was a community we're working in that their housing needs are, I don't remember the actual number, but maybe 100 units, and they have 2 water taps left, something like that. And so not that the housing needs number is meaningless, but it's definitely not a development target for them. And that's a crucial component that gets woven in as well. And so these numbers are a starting point, not an end point.
And I think the timing is really good, because you all, through the comp plan and through some of the conversations about housing policy, have already started to come up against these layered layered elements of what it would mean to take a number of a need and then say what's the reality, aligned with community values, and then things like water and access to transportation and all those sorts of things. So I know that your brains are already thinking this way, and hopefully the housing needs assessment can just kind of plug in some kind of new updated data to help us continue on the road of these conversations we've already started as a county. What's next?
So what is next? We're going to finalize this initial piece. We're going to work with staff on the Royal Resort income limit petition, as was mentioned, that just can help communities access funds to meet needs at higher income levels, which when we see that even earning 300% AMI can't get you to purchase a home, that's the story we're telling to the state. It also means that for communities that have made Proposition 123 commitments to increase inventory, we can count those higher income units towards that inventory with the waiver petition. And then finishing up the full Senate Bill 174 needs assessment, and then moving into action planning. Yes.
Do you anticipate some pushback since our need is squarely within Prop 123 guidelines as is?
So the way the Prop 123 calculation happens is it uses these numbers and calculates a weighted average income of need, which is not something typically done in needs assessments, but what we do is we take the midpoint of all of those income categories and use that to calculate the weighted average. And so we do get a higher average need than the maximum of those programs. So right now, the maximum for rental programs is 60% AMI, and the maximum for ownership, I think, is 100. And so we're able to show, and I didn't put the weighted average AMI tables in here, but I think we can show like weighted average need of like 90% for rental and like 120, 130 or something for ownership. And so we will be able to show that the needs on average are higher here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great, thank you. That's super helpful as someone who fought to try and get 160% as our max.
Yeah, and it's been, like I said, we've been chatting with DOLA staff throughout the process and showing them some of the interim work products and getting feedback and making some adjustments throughout so that we think when push comes to shove and the applications go in, we know what they're looking for. And they sort of understand the needs, but also there's, lots of voices in the room.
I guess I wonder, some of the challenge with Prop 123 is committing to holding those for 30 years. If we're not looking out necessarily on what the 30-year trajectory is for wage growth or anything like that, we're teeing ourselves up to take on projects that, hopefully can continue to meet those requirements in the future.
Continue to what?
Meet those requirements into the future. Because DOLA will maintain that requirement for those income caps for 30 years for a funded project. This is great. This is a large increase from the 2019 study, which is interesting, but I'm curious to see how the public reacts to this. And have you guys been engaged? Has Laureen LaSalle engaged you guys at all? She is one of the local press that I think it would really dig into this and might be good to have a sit down with. She's done a really good job on looking at some of the demographic changes over decades in the valley, and I think this would be a good thing for her. And then I think ABSHA might be very interested in this if that's an opportunity to present to the board for their information. Definitely. Yeah.
Great idea. Yeah,
I'll
talk to Matthew.
Okay.
I know the Westbound Regional Housing Coalition is also very interested since a lot of that initial narrative that we saw today, you've heard from them before too, and I think they'd like to help have a regional effort to understand it collectively instead of more pocketed kind of. So, this yesterday and today's the first time it's really gone public. And phase 2 has yet to even begin, so it'll be interesting to see what gets picked up at this stage and then how proactive we want to be with reaching out.
Are there any requirements as part of this to include like a market mix as far as types of housing?
No, so the requirements for this are just looking at affordable housing, and really within the needs assessment, we have the leeway of how we define that quote unquote middle income is, generally defined as up until where the market starts meeting need. And so in this region, that's pretty high. That said, for when we start talking about development constraints and then looking at the narrative for like Prop 123 waiver applications, understanding the impact that market units can have on the feasibility of a project that includes affordable units or things like that can also be an important part of the story.
Okay. I think maybe a little bit more of what I was trying to get at was like housing type, like mixes of housing
for sure.
types.
So with this, we're really just focused on rental and ownership. Sometimes in these efforts, we would do a community survey to start looking at preferences. And just as we noted, we were on sort of a condensed timeline, and so we didn't have some of the time for that. That said, we sort of know from previous efforts where preferences are and what some of those trade-offs are. And then we at EPS have also done a couple other studies locally within the last year or two, one for Basalt and then for RAFTA for their employee housing and for Roaring Fork Schools for their employee housing. And so through those efforts, I've been able to do some outreach and get a sense of what people are looking for, but then also what people are willing to trade off for affordability or location. And so generally speaking, people want their own space. They don't want to hear other people, and they want some outdoor space and some storage. And then people renting want to be able to have pets. That is number one, always. But then there are trade-offs that people are willing to make to, reduce their commute by an hour. But yeah.
Okay. And okay, I'll leave it at that, I guess.
We can weave some of that.
Yeah.
knowledge
No,
into
I
it.
just, we had to do a market analysis on different market type, types of housing availability and stuff like that, and I wasn't sure if that would get wrapped into the 174 needs assessment.
No, it's a much more specific study. So in the guidelines for 174, it actually says this is not a market study.
Yeah.
That would come after this of, okay, we know sort of owner, renter, income levels. Now let's look at what that should actually look like.
My
where it
goal
should
was
go.
like, could an applicant use this to apply, and they won't be able to. Like they will to a certain extent, but not for the specific level of detail.
Right. This would get probably like 30% of the way towards like an actual development.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Francie.
Your method of communication is extraordinarily clear. Thank you very much. It was incredible listening to you. It was so clear and concise. Really well done.
Thank you.
I thought this gave me a little more hope than some of the other studies we've seen. The actual breakdown of the numbers per region and stuff makes it look a lot more doable than some of the sort of pie in the sky projections we've had before. So that was encouraging. It's still discouraging overall for the people who live here. It was very interesting that the highest proportion of categories that has the highest need is category 5. I guess that's a reflection of our high income levels, which are not very high for working people. So it's interesting. Most people wouldn't dream of category 5. I mean, so to have 75 needed units at category 5 was a surprise to me. Anyway, thank you very much.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Couple thoughts back on slide 6. You teased a comment about transportation. And so we in the Valley just undertook a 2-month pilot project where we provided free transportation to all. And so I know it's not directly related to the housing needs assessment, but inextricably linked is transportation costs. So I would love to see the county through EOTC, et cetera, outside of our silos, figure out a way we make transportation more affordable, but don't just say, here's a blank check to the large corporations that don't need it, but really the folks that we're importing from Garfield every day, et cetera. So it seems like we might have some additional data out of this study that we could use the next time we sit here and say, let's do a free fare. So I'd love to see how that can inform this conversation. Slide 7 scared me. because the affordability at the homeownership level is also related to insurance and insurability. And we have a state of Colorado that ignores the fact that insurance stops at $750,000, yet our median price is $1.5 million. So there's a bunch of undertones in this presentation that I don't know if they're adding to the sense of like, yes, we need a waiver, because there's a lot of facets of the valley that don't apply, just sort of the one-size-fits-all that we see coming out of DOLA and the state.
Yeah, and we haven't even touched on HOA dues, which even if you can afford the purchase price and your HOA dues are, $900 a month, that makes it unaffordable.
But I mean, I thank you. Enjoyed the presentation immensely, and I'd love to see if we could take what is a study and provide input into other solutions, transportation, insurability, et cetera. So using this to go back to the FAIR Plan folks and say, look, this doesn't work for us. You need to change the cap on the FAIR Plan. On the transportation side, here's how we can offer a voucher for end-to-end, transportation within the valley, and still, provide proper funding to RAFTA. Not just saying, here's a blank check. So, thank you.
Other last thoughts?
No, thank you for the time today.
Oh.
Thank you. Tremendous thanks to EPS and Rachel for all the great work. I agree, Francie. I listened to her and I actually understand what we're talking about. And to Liz and the city for spearheading this and really keeping us moving.
That's great.
We, the Prop 123 petition waiver is kind of the priority right now. And then it sounds like we'll be back to you. We'll be back. Phase 2 will be wrapping up in the spring. So I'm sure we will touch base with you all before then. And then we'll follow up on your contact too, Kelly, to make sure that the story is being told the right way.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. And I think I'm pretty sure we'd be happy to submit a letter of endorsement for the waiver application, if that's helpful. If I can say that fairly. Okay.
And by March, we'll have new legislation we could jump to.
All right,
Thank
nice
y'all.
work. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, let's bring up Charlotte and Linda. Thanks for your patience. Welcome. We have our last of our APSHA Citizen Board interview today with Linda Manning. We interviewed 3 other folks last week. You may want to get caught up on videos. Okay, great, Jeffrey. So, Linda, I have a feeling you've probably done something like this before, but we'll have Charlotte just update us on where we're at with the status of the interviews, and then we'll invite you to tell us why you want to be on the APSHA board, and we'll kind of round robin questions. Patty and Greg could not be here today, and so they'll review the interview video, and then we will probably next week have a conversation related to the appointment, and then the appointment comes back to us in official resolution. So Charlotte, hi.
Okay, hi. Well, as you mentioned, Linda's our 4th and final applicant. The application's closed on November 14th, and last time we talked about the council and the BoCC having to interview both or all applicants and come to a decision. I did check with Rye. He did confirm that Peter, as an alternate, did have to be interviewed and go through the same process. So you can pick the alternate and the regular position from all of these 4 applicants.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. All right, welcome.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. Very nice to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. As Charlotte said, my name is Linda Manning. I've lived in Pickens County for the last 20 years. The last 6 years, I've been doing real estate development. 10 years prior to that, I worked for the city of Aspen, did retail before that. I am interested in the APSHA board for a bunch of reasons, and the conversation before this with the housing needs assessment, I think was timely with this APSHA conversation as well. Just most people would hear 2,500 units and have a mini meltdown. Which is a lot better than the 6,000 units it was at one point in time, but it's still, it opens up the door for all kind of conversations about where would you begin to build units, particularly in Aspen. I know the county has more land. Who's going to build it? The cost to build it. I mean, we've built affordable housing, and right now we're a little over $1,000 a square foot to build affordable housing, and it just, from a builder perspective, it's just not really tenable to do that, but everybody knows that the community needs it. There's a lot of facets to APSHA as far as is the program housing? What is the goal? Is it community housing? Is it workforce housing? Is it all of the above housing? And those are difficult conversations, but they're conversations that are fundamental to the program. The capital reserves and HOA costs. I mean, it's this, you brought up a great point with the HOA fees sometimes being more than what people pay in a mortgage. And the fact that it's very hard to insure HOAs right now just from a fire mitigation risk. Those are all things that homeowners right now aren't expecting, and they're looking to APSHA for guidance. And let alone with the previous conversation, we saw the drastic increase in income, which is great when you think about it, but then when you're like, oh gosh, if I'm gonna make more money, is that kicking me out of my category? And then what am I gonna do? The last thing anybody wants to do is go to their boss and say, I'd love for you to give me a raise, but I can't take it because I'm afraid for my housing. And it just, Francie, you made a point about the Category 5 housing. I mean, I look for Category 5 housing all the time, and it's just not out there. And I think that's why that number was so much higher as far as the need, because the current inventory of that just isn't there. In a single person household like me, I don't have a second person that's going to raise that income or pitch in for HOA fees or, things of that nature. So then I'm forced to look at free market housing, which, in this town is not cheap. So I've got 65% of my income going towards housing.
Oh, wow.
So it's a lot for people to have to, prioritize and say, what is keeping me here? Why do I want to be in this community? And APSHA is a great asset. I participated in the strategic, the 5-year strategic plan open houses, and that was interesting to see the community members that came out to participate in that. I thought there'd be a lot more, and there was not a huge turnout. But, looking forward at how can we take the program as it exists now, which is a true community asset, and utilize the taxpayer money that makes the program possible in the most efficient way. So there's a lot of ideas in my head as to, categories and, why is there a category system at all? And is it whoever wins the lottery, that's what the category unit is, and just even the underutilization of bedrooms. There were a couple units in the last year where one person got a multi-bedroom unit because that's who won the lottery. I mean, to me, that there tells you, okay, maybe the system needs tweaked a little bit. So how, there's a lot of, I think, areas where the board can make the current inventory more efficient. And that's what, I'm interested in. And, we have built housing. We are continuing to build housing. So, I know from the entitlement process to the actually getting it built and getting people in there, and the challenges that, come with that.
All right, awesome, Linda, thanks. Questions for Linda?
Are you an owner's rep with your company? When I read your resume, it looked like maybe you were an owner's rep.
I do all kind of things, yes, from, the entitlement to liaising with the construction people, all of it.
Well, it sounds like you know a lot about APSHA, which is Good. It's a very complicated system, and I can assure you we've been working on making the categories apply to the needs as much as possible. Mostly what the board does is look at policy over and over and over again and try to refine it all the time. It's a commitment. Kelly's the one who goes to all the meetings. I go sometimes, and it's a commitment, and it's every other Wednesday night, except in the summers, it's less often. It's just like once a month in the summers, I think, for June, July, and August. So you have to be prepared for that. But I appreciate your interest, and I appreciate your understanding of a lot of the operations of APCHA, and thank you very much for applying.
Thank you. Thanks, Linda. Okay, Jeffrey?
I think there's a question in here, but probably an observation first. So I appreciate you touched on APCHA's efficiency, you touched on the cost of building, and you touched on the cost of operations and maintenance. And probably all three need improvement in general, right? Not a criticism of an organization,
sure.
but what do you think we could do on the O&M side, on the operations and maintenance side?
That's a great question. And I mean, if you would just say out of the blue, what's the most efficient way to do it? All units would be rental.
Right.
But I mean, we all know that's not feasible and that's not what people want. People want that sense of ownership. But when you look at it philosophically, it's like, well, do they really own the unit? So it's, maybe there's, when I was at the city, they started a regional, healthcare pooling where, the largest employers got together and it's like, let's see if we can get healthcare costs down. Maybe there's something on a statewide level or, just things of that nature where it's like, how do you get it more efficient for whether it's insurance or, do these buildings, what could happen to get the insurance down? Do they need sprinkled? Things of that nature. How can, with the number of units in the inventory here, let alone Snowmass, Glenwood, looking at it on a regional perspective, is there some way to pool resources to get better insurance costs or snow plowing or, whatever it is, to try to get those HOA fees down?
Thanks for blue skying with me. I appreciate it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That it? All right. Do you have any ideas about what we could do about right sizing? I feel like the board has tried a few things.
And it's interesting because along with right sizing, there was a conversation a couple months ago about the moving assistance program, because folks can feel like they're trapped here because it's not inexpensive to move somewhere else. So, I hate to say let's do another survey, but the same thing, with the last folks in their presentation to the city last night, they were saying that they don't get a lot of data on rental. Ownership is much easier, but they don't know how much people are paying rent. I would love to do a survey and tell you how much I pay in rent, But as far as if we can free up units in a creative way, like right sizing, I mean, everybody would love to have a spare bedroom. I don't even have a bedroom. I'm in a studio. If I could have a bedroom door, whew, we're living large. But, so in the APCHA minutes from, I think it was the ones in the packet for tomorrow's meeting, it was a little confusing because it said there were 54 units, but 288 bedrooms that were unoccupied. I'm like, well, it has to be more than 54 units because you're, that's almost 3 bedrooms per unit, which is just, if that's the case, then everybody has a spare bedroom. So, I mean, I think programs like the moving assistance, what does that look like? Is that we're gonna pay for your cost to move, closing cost, when you're looking at $1,000 a square foot to build, the lumberyard units, no unit is coming in at under $1 million at the lumberyard. So if you say, we'll give people $50,000, that's 20 units. Or to, take one unit of $1 million, you could have 20 people at, $50,000
For that period of time.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean? It's just, but those are things where it's like, okay, let's look at the cost to build. So if we're saying $1 million a unit, a bedroom, whatever that number is, how could we take that $1 million and incentivize people to right size? If they want to move, here's your closing costs, here's your moving. Thank you, we've enjoyed having you, but how many units could we realistically free up?
Okay. No, I appreciate that. These are all conundrums that we wrestle with a lot at the board, at the ABSHA board.
But that's why I also think, pie in the sky ideas are, who knows what you could get out of that, So it just, and I know it's very black and white, and it's hard when you have multi-jurisdictions involved with one entity, but, it's...
I think ABSHA's challenge is that we don't have the resources to implement some of the tactics, So we've been able to generate some, like we built now ongoing funding for like a capital repairs program, so at least the units are being maintained better, But that I think is a bit of the challenge with it. For ABSHA, because it's like, well, we'd like to do all these things. City, county, is this your housing money priority?
But even that, and it's like, as a taxpayer, it's how much taxpayer money are you going to put into a unit that someone realistically can't afford to live in because they can't pay for the insurance, or, when building roofs need repaired and, people are hit with a big capital assessment, and it's just like, what do you do at that point? So, I think it is a big conversation of, in the future, particularly, how many of these units should be ownership versus rental.
And would you prioritize bringing on new units or maintenance of current stock?
Well, and that's, realistically, where are you going to bring new units on? So there's the other piece of the conversation. It's no one has had a carry-in capacity conversation around housing that I know of.
What do you mean?
As far as, and when I was at the city, when Burt Meyer was on city council, he would harp constantly on carrying capacity. There's a finite amount of water in this area. And as far as transportation, even just getting from the roundabout in, how long are we going to say, okay, we're going to build more units, but, it takes me an hour every day to get into town. What number is long enough? Do we say, we're now up to 2 hours, it is what it is. But, with electricity, schools,
we have
hospital.
Definitely discussed carrying capacity at this table.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But, that all comes in with this number. If we say we need 2,500 more units, how many children come with that? Right. What can the
that's
school
the whole
maintain?
Region. That's not
2,500 was Aspen, so it just,
no,
her whole
2,500
number
was the whole region.
I think that was closer to 4,500. But
in the number they just gave us, 2,800.
No, it was just for Up Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole region was like 7,900.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a big number, but there's one school here, so it's like there's a conversation around what can we actually maintain as a community, versus instead of just if we build it they will come. Of course they will. So those are all interesting conversations.
Yes, and thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for interviewing. We definitely have these at the board level, and we will follow up once the other board members get to see the interviews and we discuss. Yeah,
Thank
cheers.
you.
Happy holidays.
Yes, as
nice
well.
to
Thanks
see
so much.
you.
Thank you so
baking
much.
Cookies yet?
Thanks, Charlotte.
Yes. She didn't hear me. Okay.
71.
Let's see if we can wrap up these next three things before 5. What do we think? Review of future agenda calendars.
Yeah, just wanted to let the board know that we are looking at doing a joint meeting with the Airport Advisory Board and the Board of Commissioners. Right now we're looking at January 13th. And that's to report on the community feedback on the terminal design concepts, and also look at concept programming, so sizing of different components for the terminal and landside improvements. We thought that might be good to do as a joint meeting where there's one presentation with our architects in conversation with the Airport Advisory Board. And that's all I have for future agendas.
Well, I'm okay with that. Just so you know.
Yes,
Since this is a
okay.
future agenda discussion.
That is
I'm
correct.
okay with that. I don't know about these guys, though, 'cause they're not saying anything.
No, it's fine. Others?
That's all I have.
Well, I might be too.
You're going to be in Bozeman?
I'm kidding.
Isn't
It was-
everybody
it was-
else on
I
that?
don't know. No, we're going in
It's the end of the
February.
month.
It's February 2nd or something.
And then I just do want to flag for next Tuesday, we are going to have a conversation about our BoC discretionary fund. So I guess if you have an organization you care or are concerned about and might need some information to help you make your pitch or make your decision, then I think it would help to flag that for staff ahead of time. For example, I've been like, is community health services, whole? What do they need? And so staff knows that that's been one of my concerns and questions. And so I just would so we can have an effective conversation if you suddenly are like, oh, I want to know if this organization, how they're doing at the end of this year,
I need a reminder of the difference between the discretionary fund and the capital fund that we now have, and just to be sure I know what we're talking about here.
Yeah. I think we're wrapping both into this discussion, discretionary fund and discretionary capital fund. That's right. Yeah.
Apologies. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes,
I'll
my
let
question
Francie ask it,
was,
yeah.
I need an update on the discretionary fund versus the capital fund, because I believe we have two funds now. We used to have this $10,000 fund, and we called that the discretionary fund. And then now we've talked about adding like a capital fund for people who come to us with capital projects, and I'm just wondering where we are with that.
So I'll give it an attempt and then John can jump in. So the discretionary fund for this is only for 2025. We're not talking 2026 dollars. That is that's your stabilization fund. That's a different process
Yeah,
we'll
and
go
that,
through.
you could tell me about that too.
Parking lot that for now.
Yeah.
The discretionary fund, it used to be 10,000. I think then it was 20,000, and then we increased it to 200,000 2 years ago to be inclusive of capital fund requests that could not be funded elsewhere, i.e. through the Healthy Community Fund, and or smaller grants that have traditionally over time been, where the board wanted to see some money. So that $200,000 is comprehensive of one-off capital requests as well as other requests that have come in. It's all captured within that one fund.
Which is 200,000.
Which is 200,000.
So there's not one discretionary fund and one capital fund anymore?
No.
And what is the stabilization fund?
That is the 500,000 over 3 years in 2026, 2027, and 2028 for human services, support services, and public lands. That will be a different process.
Okay. Great, thank you.
That's per annum.
Yes, we put it all, I think, 1.5 with the idea that we'd be doing it in 500,000.
Okay.
And Kelly, you might have said this about Little Red Schoolhouse was the one. Little Red Schoolhouse is the only one that staff is aware of at this time that has come to you as a direct ask for those discretionary fund dollars.
Have we spent any of it? Didn't we spend some of it on
The Reds, no, that was the park.
Mountain 2030,
Nope. That came out of just was reviewing the AIS, which is why we have not spent any of the 200,000 yet.
Okay. Thank you.
One follow-on question, sorry. I think the advice from John was that the stabilization fund didn't hit until March of 2026. So I just look back to the board and say, given there's 200,000 and there's 4 months between now and March of 2026, would the board also think about sitting on something for that Q1 period where we may need money?
And I will flag that proposal for
the next week. That's fine. I just want people to think that way. I think the other organization we heard from through Greg was Aspen Public Radio did come in and make a pitch. I'm pretty sure Breeze Richardson was in front of the board.
Oh, really? I wasn't here for that. I missed that.
I'll have to follow. Okay, that was not.
Yeah, I just
okay, we
wanted-
can track that one down.
I'm not committing, I'm just saying, there was another organization that came
Thank
to
you.
us and said we may need the county support.
Okay.
Yeah, that might have been during, I think, public comment.
It was. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Okay, great. 45 minutes will be good to have that time for conversation. Are there other items on future agendas that you may have questions about or wish to provide some heads up or feedback to staff on?
What day am I looking at here? 16th.
Or items that you would like the board to authorize for consideration on future agendas? Jeffrey?
I would like a sort of staff review or something about budget process 25. I know I said it earlier during the budget process, but how 25 went versus 24. There were two different sort of look and feel to them. Did staff feel like they missed out from what they got in 24 with board time to how it was presented in 25? And how do we do it better in 26? So it's not a like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Connie at our last leadership team meeting did ask for feedback and is going to have a process around that. We are also going to be looking, when I say we, I better get Kara up here. Do you want to take this one, Kara?
Sure. So at our last leadership meeting, Connie, we all had a discussion. We are going to look in January amongst staff to basically do a plus delta and then be bringing that forward to the board. And then are looking at Connie's and Stuart are doing some research of what would potentially be a hybrid option that in addition to that feedback from staff, what are different options to bring for the board for consideration far ahead of the 2026 process.
Yeah, it's just organizationally, what can we do better?
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep.
Any others?
No.
Why don't we go to
I
open?
had one more, sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We've been asked by CCI to designate a voter again, and you could say, Kelly, we should wait till 2026 to do it.
That's usually part of our board appointment
Yeah.
process.
We'll put it there. It's in my inbox, so I brought it.
Great, thank you. We do need to get that on the schedule.
Yeah.
The official
for
board
the first
appointments.
regular meeting. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, why don't we go to open discussion since Alex is here, and then we can wrap up with a Transportation Coalition update if that works for the board.
Okay.
Yeah, is that okay? You want to?
Yeah, so we have Alex, and I think Michael was on too. Maybe he's in there with Alex, but it's to talk about just some mutual aid that the Sheriff's Office is looking to provide to Basalt. So Alex, with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, everybody. So absolutely, just as John put it, we approached the sheriff and I approached the Basalt Police Departments, let's say a few months ago, in just an effort to assist them with some staffing complexities they have.
This isn't working for me at all.
Their school resource officer, Jason Becker, from.
Hey, Alex, hang on a sec.
And
We're
I
having a
have my
hard
hearing
time hearing. We hear you loudly, but it's not coming through clearly.
A little muffled.
Yeah.
Michael, do you want to pick up and I'll figure that out? Sure. It just sounds like you have a little bit of echo and muffled. Yeah, so we've been tossing around the idea because the SRO, Jason Hedberg, has not been fulfilling that role right now because of some staffing issues. And I know Alec is a parent of two daughters that go to Basalt schools. I'm the grandfather of one, soon to be two next year going there. So I'm getting hit with calls, texts, just discussions in the neighborhood about
what could be done. So like Alex mentioned, we've been talking with interim chief or acting chief Evan Munch about this idea, and we think we have most of it ironed out with the IGA, and we're going, the city council, the Salt City Council is having a meeting tonight, which is where they're discussing this further. Alex, would this be the first reading for that?
Yeah, sorry about that. Is that
Much better.
Oh, that's
my
better.
apologies.
Much better.
Sorry about that. So yeah, so we've been working with their attorney and Ryan, our attorney, obviously to kind of hammer out the details of an IGA, to put this together, to give it a little more structure than just mutual aid assistance to the town of Basalt, and that's going to the town council this evening for, I believe, first reading as it appears on their agenda. So essentially, the sheriff and I wanted to get before you right now to just give you a heads up. Quite frankly, it all kind of came together really quickly in the last 48 hours. So we wanted to make sure that you were fully aware of this. I have drafted an AIS and a resolution consideration next week to bring in front of you next Wednesday at the regular meeting for that IGA.
What question? Can you explain more how the services will operate?
Thank you.
Sure. So we will work with their leadership, with Acting Chief Munch, to give us a 21-day heads up to identify shifts that they will need some coverage on. We're really thinking it's going to be a minimal amount of shifts, but they're important shifts because, as the sheriff said, it frees up their school resource officer to go back into the Basalt schools as opposed to providing patrol coverage on the road. We're thinking somewhere maybe at most 10 to 15, maybe 20 hours a week. But I think that's even a lot. It really is just filling in some gaps on their shift schedule. And then our deputies will work essentially as Pickens County Sheriff's Office deputies, but in the town of Basalt. We've worked out the kind of the logistics issues with the two different judicial districts. As you know, Basalt straddles the 5th and the 9th judicial district, so it's a little bit complicated there in terms of violations of the criminal law, but we're pretty confident we have that squared away.
Yeah, that helps.
You have more questions?
Yeah. Is the high school in Pickens County?
It is.
It is.
So, but the school resource officer at the high school is provided by the town of Basalt?
Yes, because it's in Pickens County, but within the town of Basalt.
I might be able to add some context here too. You may recall that we did a calculation recently where we made a contribution to the Roaring Fork School District, and that took into account supports like the school resource officer and such that we're providing to Aspen on a per student basis for the students that are originating from Pickens County into the Roaring Fork School District. The intent was for that to be able to partner, in whatever ways the school district chose for whether it's behavioral health or SROs. I think the issue here is Basalt just doesn't have the staff resources to cover right now, and that's where the
in their
mutual
police
aid
department.
In their police department, yeah.
Okay.
And I'd ask the sheriff and Alex to confirm that, yeah.
That's correct, John, and I think it's worth mentioning that they are doing everything they can to recruit. So it's not like we're filling a long-term gap. We expect them to be staffed to get into a spot where they'll be able to, without our assistance, continue at some point next year. But the terms of this IGA really is set to get us through the end of this current academic year. So through June, end of June, essentially, of next year, where Jason will then has the freedom because he's not in school to come back to patrol, et cetera. So I think it's also worth mentioning that we won't be reducing services to any of unincorporated Pickens County, right? These will be extra duty shifts that will be posted and made available to our current roster. So we won't be filling these with people that normally would have been providing services to Pickens County and areas of the county.
All right. I see some head nods over here, so we'll expect to see a IGA come to us during a regular session.
We'll bring it back next Wednesday. I'm on your agenda for a little bit.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
gentlemen.
Bye.
Any additional open discussion?
Just want to thank you guys again.
This is it, hey?
Yeah,
Well, tomorrow.
This is it?
I guess, but last
Damn it.
public.
I know.
Came so fast.
I know.
Ah, John, you're a great guy. Good luck to you. All right, if there's no other open discussion, Francie, do you want to update us on the Transportation Coalition?
Well, I would love to, and I have notes, but I'd like to recommend that we do it next week when Greg is here, so he can give some feedback as well, if that's okay with you. He hasn't had a chance to talk about it for a while, and I think he might like to. It's like 5 minutes. We have one more meeting in January, so. I'm happy
maybe
to
what
do
we
it.
can do is you guys can wrap that into your board reports.
That sounds great.
We
Yeah.
have 15 minutes of board reports scheduled. We do have a planning and zoning meeting next Tuesday, so we can't go too far over.
It won't be long.
But that's maybe how I'd recommend we
Yeah,
handle
we
that.
will need some time in January to finish up, and then I think after that, not Greg or me, but the conveners of this group, the chair people, I think they'll bring it to the EOTC. I think that's what's coming, so.
And I would just flag, I washed my bag, so everything is at home. But I had printed copies of working agreements. We've added that to our schedule for next Tuesday as well.
Okay.
I feel like I should wrap that up as chair before passing it over to Jeffrey. So will you please look at those and come with any.
You sent them to us?
Well, John sent if you look for working agreements, John had sent you the document.
You commented on them, so.
Okay. So I'm happy to send it again, but.
You mean the ones we were supposed to make comments on months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
so-
we haven't signed them. We haven't discussed them again as a group or agreed to sign them.
Okay.
Or figure out who's gonna assign them and who's not gonna sign them. But I think it would, we should have that conversation
Yeah, me too.
collectively
Okay.
to let them ratify them so they can sit on our desks and we can be reminded. So if that works for everyone, thank you. And all right, I think that's.
You
That
still
is
have
it.
leftover chocolate. We must have to go longer.
Oh my gosh. Well, I could use extra time. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Grassroots.